So we'll go ahead then and just kind of start. As you know, when we kind of left off, there were kind of two issues that we were still talking about, right? We agreed to the 2.5 of the insurance, but you had wanted us to take a look at those cells, kind of 16 through 20, and see if there's some work we could do there to, just help kind of acknowledge the years in the district and longevity and why that's important, which is very important to all of us too, right? Um, no worries. And so I'll kind of talk through that just so we're on the same page with that. And then the other one was proposal 8. And Jane, I remember you were kind of talking about, some kind of ground on the supports and where does that look? So we have to get some thoughts with that. So if you flip to over that first page, and we have on proposal 3, right? We've kind of talked through that last time. And so we kind of blued out these sections and then put agreed to on all of these. So were there any questions with proposal 3 still? Because we felt like we were on the same page with all of that.
But language that will be put into the
There's nothing on proposal 3, then we'll skip over to 6. As you know, that was agreed to as well. So we've been navigating with Christine a similar situation with the fair one that was drawn up. So that'll all be handled, obviously. So that's a pretty easy one. Proposal 7. So we kind of talked through that. We already have the part of the MOU that we agreed upon. And I said, with the insurance package. What we did is for lane 6 steps through 16 through 20, we have another additional 250 for those steps specifically. So if you look at the peak in front of you, right, take a look at that and then flip to the second page where you have fiscal year 25-26 with the stars at. You can see then how that kind of rolls through the system. And so we chose to do a monetary amount. And Christine, you can take, Moses and I did a little research too and talking with other clerks and stuff and with the multiplier, in terms of what's going to make sense, right? And so that comes to then an additional 750 when you add the 500 that was in there. So you can see how that kind of ripples through. And then if you also look at how it using kind of that cell to cell comparison on the next page with the 2.5 percentages, you see how then that affects from a percentage standpoint on cells 16 through 1. If you look at one more page. And then that same would be true for 26 and 27. And then if you look at proposal 8, right? So in that one, we'd already highlighted not being charged 8.75 hours on sport Fridays, but we also then, last time I talked through the 2 sports determining 85 parent teacher conference days. So we'd like to put that back to you all as then our thoughts on that, the compromise in that situation. You kind of read through the language in the red. Christine, kind of take a look at that and see.
These will take the place of one net conference and the introduction should be one net conference each, or does that? For this round? Two for each.
Sure, you know, I can see what you're saying,
But
yeah, just from, yeah, that's a net, yeah. So one night each, kind of adding in some verbiage or the. And then in section 10.1, we had, looked at keeping the wording as is. Are you okay with 10.1 then? Keeping that moving forward where it was?
we'll discuss them.
Then on the discretionary leave, as you can see, that one was already agreed upon. And then in 10.1, the school calendar, there was that additional language we kind of talked about last time. And then section 10.4 on teacher working conditions with the 7th, if the teacher agrees to. What we talked about. So,
And Corinne, to clarify, you, the counter proposals, I guess you will, on proposal 7 and 8
right.
are being presented as a package. So you either accept all of it, or we go back, potentially
Potentially.
revise.
Yep. Thank you.
A package of one, everything, or one.
Yes.
Like if we counter something on proposal 7, go back to the board on both of them, is that right?
And you're talking 7 being the salary and insurance.
Mhm.
Time to discuss this.
My husband is bringing, soup from the Infinity Bakery. He picked it up at 4:30, so he should be here in a minute.
I thought it's on.
Well, he did actually drop some things off, so there's a cooler with some beverages, there's a 7-layer salad,
Sure.
and.
There's brownies. Serve me that war.
Where are those ground?
Yeah.
Gina, Mike. Hey, Moses actually has another sheet. for
Can I
you.
give you guys kind of what we worked upon, but it's just the nature for like the next 2 years. I only have 3 copies. Is that okay?
Thank you.
You could bring that to her and to the friend.
Yeah, I think a copy of it. I'm ready to write it.
Oh.
Read it over.
Oh, perfect. Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Tim, it's just what it looks like for the next 2 years.
Right, yeah. Yeah, because we have the 1 year, but we didn't have the second.
We had a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Go down.
That's
She says to me that it's 100%. So it's.
That's the city side.
So around it, you're trying to.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, it was, yeah, so her kids.
That was. I'll put you guys down back here. Oh.
We're on the same page.
Governor's mansion and wildlife.
Okay, okay. Okay, perfect. We are good.
What happened? Then they're gonna take everything. And I think. We're gonna.
Yeah.
We're gonna stream out the next 3 years.
And that's why I want to make sure we're on the same page, but the ones that been agreed to.
Yeah,
exactly. Perfect. We're good next. Yeah, okay, good. We're already done. This is.
We did all day today. We went on.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, yeah, okay.
I was
Good.
have a chance to hear about the motions. Tomorrow. The church, they need to get ready for home. So, yeah, I have a get go get my mom.
Starting bring it all in.
That's pretty good. She got a grant for it. Oh. And so they were able to take her class to do the capital and, the governor's mansion. They got that really late. That was like, what street does it use to sleep over? No, yeah.
Isn't the whole 4th grade class that way?
Her one.
Oh, just wondering, that's okay.
I have a 4th grader and I heard about this and he was like, why don't we get to go down? I don't know.
We brought you out, guys, for around.
Maybe got the big dogs.
Oh,
They didn't
wow.
see any today.
Oh,
Perfect.
Man,
I'm gonna wait. Thank you.
You guys want around?
He posed us an idea. Always say it's a call.
Ice skating.
You were turning down the bar, not being able to get her in. Didn't we, Moses?
Yeah.
You and I said, hey.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's all you like, no.
You think we're already in the car by the time I'm finished. They're all like, goodbye, we're leaving you. Okay, so we want to talk.
It's just on.
Oh, thank you. We've got a couple of their teacher conferences. One time I just asked them to do a little bit of, so they did. A little individual, you know.
The weather alert has been issued in our vicinity.
What, that it's snowing?
Probably.
It
Well,
will
they did the
expire at
foundation
6
of it.
p.m.
See what it says, yeah.
I didn't even realize. When did we start naming winter storms?
So we only need hurricanes and dark.
I didn't have, they named winter storms.
I
I
heard
heard it on, I'm like. Like, how bad does it have to
Maybe
be?
the storms
To get
got
a name?
knocked out.
And it's not how bad does it, but. Like, how bad does it have to be? Because they never talked about when we're super cold, or we got like 2 feet of snow, like. They talk about when New York, where someplace gets a foot and a half of snow, they don't talk about like Kalispell when it gets dumped on it, 4 feet of snow in one day. Well, this will help. Did you guys get anything today?
It's been snowing there all day, but we didn't get finished.
We have about 2 to 2.5 inches of snow.
No, just looks wet there.
Free car wash.
Let's wash your car. But I want. Oh, they put them in little individual ones?
Oh, I assumed that it was like.
Of that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Other states, the other day, oh. I carry those on the plane, like. Yeah, I do too. Oh, my phone.
Yeah, she said there's meal bagel soup and chicken bagel soup, yeah.
Gonna say, you know.
There's nothing in your.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, they got to do that.
They, perspective, student teachers.
Oh, I was gonna
Is that
say,
ours?
I was gonna ask you what they can do.
I'm so thankful for that. Yes.
It gives it templates of
It seems like they do it. Yeah, I really did not realize it's easy. Funny.
We have a good alibi, like nobody else can do it.
Yeah, it's one.
On you accept the revised contract. Have you guys bring that, a few proposals, and then we have to send it back to legal.
But you've already sent it out.
We'll see that tomorrow.
Coming back tomorrow, so I think we're making good headway in that with Kristen.
Okay.
Yep. We also added a caveat. That if, you know, because there was some talk about like, if we couldn't get the teachers we wanted out there, you know, right now, as you know, there's a lot of interest in getting applications from Filipino teachers and stuff, but the trade-off is then you're paying for the visas and all of that. So I have Megan added, like you said, if the fund will cover all expenses related to that.
Well, they were.
Which you
fine with that.
were very fine.
Yeah, about that writing.
And then it was about the phone.
They could potentially be making
That's
a
come up.
spot like a mile away.
Yeah,
What time?
that came up.
They might make them a spot like a mile away. They don't want anyone dropping in and watching TV.
What's in it? Did they say? He was the TV and they were drinking wine or something. And I'm looking at these guys like this. When I was out there. But.
They act like they don't do it, but it's. I worked with a kid. He was in parent hall. And he got in a fight with the farm boss or whatever, like 1 week. And then next week it happened again, and it got them a bigger fight. He literally walked, he was 16 years old. He started walking for his home. And one of the neighbors picked him up. He was like, what's going on? Where are you going? Are you okay? I'm going to harm. Wow. What are you gonna do there? Well, I have to get a job and I'm supposed to finish high school and then I'll see what I'm gonna do. I'm not sure. Like, what have to, yeah, money. No.
What is that?
So where can you sleep at night? I don't know. So his neighbor like said, well, I need some help for next week or two. Can give me a hand for a couple weeks and I'll pay you. We got him set up for 12 weeks and all that stuff. Place to stay and, graduate college. College graduate.
Nice.
Yeah. But over there, he can still go out and it's fine. If they're fine, they can come back. Tell me about their weddings. Rules on why.
Not really. It's like a whole other kind of thing, huh?
Cause like half the colony comes down from Canada.
Oh, wow.
And when there's a Canadian wedding, about half of theirs go up there. So it's like a contest and the best party.
Different than you think of.
Yeah. Yeah, he goes, yeah, there's no limit on it. You just go till you can't go. It's a good market. Didn't hear you.
That little act that puts the napkin salt there.
So we need your insurance. They're like, what insurance school pays for this, or your insurance pays for this, or who's your insurance pays for this? And they're like, well, I'm the first. Yeah, I was like, pretty sure it's your insurance. No, there.
Unless you chose to get the supplemental through the school at that
They
area.
said if there's neglect or it's transportation, then it's a different story. If it was.
Or if they had, like, let's say, Lewistown had had some kind of faulty equipment where the kids got hurt. Then Lewistown's up for that, but with something like that.
He just didn't want any of the.
Yeah.
He thought it was just odd that they would have that.
Mm-hmm. That was cool. Hey, John.
Yeah, she's doing nice. He's like, I have no idea how this happened. She didn't want to.
She did.
Mom was out of right out.
Stuff happens like that sometimes. So I came in here and was in the 8th grade, picked him up for basketball practice. And I'm looking around and I look over at Logan and I was like, where's Sharon? And he's like, he's in the back. He ran into the AED machine. And it did have, so after that, then we got this little cover to protect him because he was in the gym. So he was running, trying to get him to save a ball out of bounds. And it scraped the top of his head this way. So I had to take him to the doctor and get 4 staples and said, because he popped a little hole under the AED machine. So similar kind of thing. And I was like this. So I go, Joey, it's his coach, and he's like, I'm trying to kind of fix it. You should probably take him in. I was like, yeah, I'll take him right now.
That question.
You know, Infinity Baker did soups. Everyone.
I thought they did cookies.
Yeah. Cookies and scones.
They do it all.
That's all I know about.
Thursdays are the savory scones.
There's ones that were,
Yeah, I like.
So it's like bacon and cheddar and chive.
Oh,
I haven't had any 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
I've only had like 3 in 5.
bacon
There.
cheddar ones are the best.
You know what's really good? It's bacon. You know, nice and crispy. So, top your vegetarian with it. It kind of looks a little bit gross, but, the bacon's okay, so it's okay for a little bit. Greasy.
Wow.
One of the guys at work told me about this, I'm like, you,
Wow. You're like, what's
and
going
then
on?
I tried it, I'm like, this is actually pretty good.
It's actually pretty good.
It's gotta be
You look
really,
out
you want it really crispy.
Not burnt, otherwise it would be slimy.
So Jeremiah's and Roma have the same birthday, right? So I go over to Infinity that day and I get like a box of cookies and stuff, so she can have with friends. And so I know it's Jeremiah's birthday. Well, I remember he loves the donuts that are like the maple donuts that are bacon on it. So I got him one for his birthday. He was like, that's one. I was like, I remember you said that. I was like this. Get on this, but he said, you gotta try it, don't have to try it. I was like, oh.
5 minutes does have a bacon motion to it.
A little peanut butter in my vanilla.
The peanut butter is. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Overhead, it's something like that.
What?
The way that now. Ground. I When I had bread balls. For lunch, they learned to go and choose them, so.
We're at the cabin one time, for it's snowing. Ooh. Should make chicken noodles, and then I was like, yeah, no noodles, and so I learned how to make noodles. And then
I learned how to make them, and then I can't go back to using the bag of noodles. They are so good.
Remember as a kid, my mom made. She would make, they were like Columbia's, like, no uniformity from like something. They were great. They were like, they were awesome, but they were like, some of them were like this wide, some of them were thin, some of them were inch long, some of them were 5 inches long, like all over the place, and they were great.
my friend who showed me just then rolled it out on the counter and he took a pizza slicer.
That's what mom did.
And she was a jeweler, so hers were very precise.
Oh. That's what my mom would do. She would just use a pizza slicer to cut it like thing. Like, yeah, some of them are fat, some of them are skinny. You get what you get.
It is.
She was a big, well, I tried to make them like people. They're all individual. These ones kind of remind me of fall.
So Brian, how you doing? I've been doing. How long this week or next week?
Oh,
She's like, he was like, yeah, she wants to make things, so. I'm excited.
I'm glad we mentioned that. It was next week, because
I'm excited about it, so.
I think I'm gonna do burrito bowls.
No, I did, I hyped them up, I said, good day this afternoon, I said, you know how like when it's my turn, guys, I usually do like chicken for my New pizza, I said, I'll probably have some fabulous.
I know.
It's not to take away from my pizza, but.
My friends, but the teacher didn't even know. And then that sixth grader, that's the fellow this week. And, so, yeah, yes.
I went as part of the Northwest Energy, not for Northwest Energy, but when a school would be evaluated. And we went to Anaconda and walked into the elementary principal. In his office, he was smoking a cigarette and reading some kind of trash. Oh, it just bored me, but you know, this was before when you could smoke in your office or not your classroom. Yeah.
You didn't even have to go to the teacher smoking one.
No, that's crazy.
I remember. Corridor Street. It's a good section. She won't. There's not no like smoke. So. When we were in science class, teachers had a little like picnic table, and that's really nice. That's where all smoke right outside the science classroom. I mean, this far from the window that was always open until we were smoking in science class. If you were back in that corner, you would like.
Because like when I was a kid, my parents didn't smoke, but like both sets of my grandparents smoked. I had aunts and uncles that smoked. You could smoke in restaurants, like it was very common to see somebody smoking, but when Lisa was 4, we stopped at the gas station in Cupping. And it had not occurred to me, but she had never seen somebody smoking before. And there were the guys standing outside the gas station smoking a cigarette. She was like, "It's man, dude." You know, she was like, "He has a snake." Like dumbfounded over this. I mean, it's like such a, I'm trying to explain like what he's doing and everything he's trying to say, like, really doesn't make sense, you know? And, but to see it like through her perspective of like, you know, like, but it was just a normal thing when I was in that age, yeah.
Well, every restaurant has smoking.
Yeah, right.
If you go to the bar, and you come out of there with, you know, your hair was smoky and.
Yeah. You go to a restaurant, I mean, it's the only we have is in the smoking.
Okay.
Now, I can just go.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's just a piece.
Were you able to get into the Western job fair?
It's actually right now. Well, it finished this afternoon. Beth and Eileen went because, of the ACT and one of our testers wasn't able to. So I am the only backup tester.
Oh, okay.
I was doing that today and yesterday, so they went over after finishing stuff in balance at like 5:30 last night, drove there.
A little bit longer.
And,
Well, your Eileen was really just heartbroken about it.
Oh, she was so happy.
I think
She
she
did
said
so.
you could go and she's like, I feel better. There were more balanced stuff.
No, she was awesome, no, she.
Yeah.
She did.
They marketed the brand quite well. I saw
Oh my gosh,
pictures.
it was so, they did a fabulous job. They had a little.
I asked her if she had a presentation.
Oh, I had to.
All these
They got
stuff.
ready for it. I had a PowerPoint, their video,
That's
so
awesome.
all
Did
kinds
they,
of
did they give
stuff.
away some stuff, like swag?
Yeah,
Brand or
we
swag?
had sway.
Did the students like come to talk to them in person?
I believe so in this one. Right, like in-person people.
It's a real plus.
Yes. You know, for instance, all of them share in that with. And I mean, you've been. And then, Brown for a partnership, even for the spring, we pitched that and said, can we in the future have in-person handshake? And he was like, great.
Strap on their chest.
Yeah. We do have a lot of different variations for voting.
And QR codes.
Really sporting us, it's all, it really is. You can just-
We have a lot of voting that you can see. Not that many variations. It's good to have those. You got the H. You got like. You got the pony on spindles. So I got, so you know, I'm thinking like, for like my administrators this year, right, when we started the admin back. So I went with that pony that like Jane wore, the one that's on the football, matches, right? So I go with that for the football, jersey there.
Then think about that.
Nice fresh and it's. That's a wrong logo.
Oh, no, they like the
original. They like the original.
That's a.
I got like the football pony, dancing grass like this. You should have won.
But we're just going with the H.
Right?
And the H is good too, I like the H.
Yeah.
I like these. I've got some shoes.
Rachel had her baby yet?
Mhm.
Oh.
Yes, they did. Was that on Sunday, Holly?
Saturday.
Yeah.
Little girl.
Yeah. We got, yeah. Pictures of, as Justin. Yeah, another D name, right? Daphne. You got, yeah,
Which
the lady.
cartoon is that from?
Scooby-Doo, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That is pretty good memory. Oh, I had to think for a minute.
With that name.
There's a place on the way to.
It's funny, those grass seeds,
Stop
I
it, it's
believe,
got
is-
all the different
Maybe it's time.
cartoons and movies and things pasted
Yeah.
on their wall. They painted on.
Maybe, yeah, the game was like, this is right. You did it right. He goes, I'm just over by the time they leave high school, I'm not like drooling or. So, well, we're gonna hope that's the case too, Dustin. I just got a lot of to go over that, because you never know what he's gonna say.
No.
No.
It's serious though, like I got a puppy a couple years ago and I could barely get up with the puppy and I was like, good thing I didn't wait till I was 40 to have my baby.
This is sounding.
I wouldn't want to baby now.
No, not at all. I'm telling you, not me either.
To hold other people's faith.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Me and Carter do nursery at church.
Hmm?
We do nursery at church for the little ones. It's great. Moms are a little like, are you guys okay with these baby to be a little bit? That's fine. We got. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Yep, and on
You
the
have a
flip,
few.
on the flip, what a good blessing for us. Because they know we
So
get. So super cool, like awesome. You always gotta look at that. Super
The
fun.
fun part of that.
Yep. Yep.
Does
super awesome.
this brother have all girls?
Yep, I think it's all girls.
I'm just older two house and I'm like, this thing, yeah.
And is his oldest that's in band, or two of them?
The
Two
one-
oldest started.
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that they're that old already.
Does,
But their middle was the last flight too.
does Dan, they have 3 kids? I was thinking they just had 2 girls, but 3. No, cool.
One's a freshman
One's gonna start kindergarten next year.
Okay.
and the other one is what? So.
Middle school.
Yeah, Luke is in seven.
But yeah, I'm on the train of the closing now for these just.
Yeah.
I remember when we finally got rid of the stroller. Although Laura, I love to go see, like.
Your people in.
I know, I love the May, and she's like,
Good fun.
where are we gonna put all our stuff? She was, we find stuff, where do we put it?
No, stroller.
Now we have to put it away.
I don't even know, like, I'm bringing a backpack that we can just like stuff full of junk. I want that to be light.
Funny how those.
I'm old.
I just wanted.
My family does not like that I have a small purse now.
Well, no, because you can't put anything in that thing.
I have 2 phones, my wallet, and a plethora of cough drops that I'm right there.
You know.
Yeah, if you ever need a real cough drop though, Holly's your gal. She's got a cough drop that will blow your mind. It's so intense.
We,
Little
And you choke on it.
Oh, I'm telling you what, Lorraine, Holly and I were interviewing one time, all of a sudden, I said, whoa, and Holly like, she rips like the person, she dishes me this cough drop, right? I'm thinking like it's a Halls. I couldn't even let my tongue run down. My mouth, I couldn't feel all of it.
Like after you're done choking me for the first couple minutes from it, and your eyes are watering, and you're done for like 4 hours.
I'm looking at people goes,
Hey, we know, I take out
That's-
the
what
Small
brand?
and mighty, huh?
They're doTERRA on guard.
oh, let me tell you, you've never had somebody like this. No,
You don't need a whole one.
You don't know what kind of oils are all.
no, I did not, listen, I'm telling you, I was just like this. Paralyzed.
You didn't cough again.
I did not come get it from you.
Especially when you're not expecting it, you're like,
Oh.
Now, I coughed, I'm like, would you like Ricola, Halls, or doTERRA? And he's like, Ricola? I don't think it's anything.
Yeah, exactly. Not that one.
Speaking of tranquilizers.
Just tranquilize something today?
No, not today.
No.
Every once in a while, when a cow wants to take their cow, we give up, it's essentially a drink. And it's 1 milliliter. I mean, how do you get? For a 1,500 pound cow. You give them the shot, and in 10 minutes, they're literally like standing there, and they're swinging back and forth. And then they start drooling. Like just incessantly, like just they have no control over it. You can poke their eyeball, and they don't even play. But you only have, and then you get the cat this side, and they can, so you, after 15 minutes, you have a cat eat, and they should be done eating.
And none of the tranquilizer goes through the gap
No, no, because the milk is already
produced at that
already
point.
produced at that point, yeah. But if you wait longer than 45 minutes, the cow will just fall over. Because they got nothing, they got no body control. So you like have to like quickly get the cat out of the way, and then you get them out of the kitchen and just get the. And then they wake up and they're like, oh, there's my baby.
Life's good. Wow.
That's Laura's favorite thing is doing it. It's like, oh, here it is. That's right. Here comes the drill. Here goes the cat.
All the things you learn. You're a no animal. You have a dog.
Oh, yeah.
And if the cat doesn't drink all of the milk that the mom produces, you milk the rest of it out into a cup. And then you pour all of it. And you smell.
It's not like mother, and they're probably is ready to
it.
bottle.
Otherwise, it takes about 36 hours for the smell. Yeah, it's Well, the first time it was a night here. I'm like, oh. Oh, yeah, she like went down. And she figured out it's going like that. And it's just head catch not even the body. And like we couldn't get her out. And she was like way back like this, and her head's pulling on that field and the game was
Right.
So then we finally get her to move just a little bit. Me and Carter like pushing her and that's like bringing her neck.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, we have no clue. He's like, what the heck? I don't know what's in that thing. But whatever tranquilizers are, do you agree? Are you told me?
You better not stick yourself.
No. No, I don't think I'm good. No. Better be off for about 2 days.
Seems like it together.
We about have August Institute all lined up.
Do we use? There's some funds that we have to use for teacher training. Still that we use for August Institute. Is that still what we?
Falls under the director of personnel or director of curriculum.
There's one budget for it.
Well, one time, like, we had to use so much money for additional teacher training or something. I can't remember. I don't know if you were like.
I think it was a title, tied to the title grant, probably in 2020. And we had funding that had to be spent in 2 months. And
Oh, no, this is like when I first got on. That's how they originally paid for it. Get some like really big name people. Because they had to spend this much on teacher training.
Mhm.
So they're like, well, let's go get this person. They cost 4 times what everybody else got, but we had money.
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
so. That's how they brought in some of those really big name ones that they got.
When I was first started teaching, we had tons on positive image building. That was
the go-to.
the thing.
I like that one.
That's pretty good. And you can set these up.
Is there bad weather down in Dillon?
It wasn't supposed to start snowing there until, 7.
Oh.
And so I had texted a while ago and I said, how's your weather? They're like, good, bye. It rains and snow here all day, but it's not sticking here. Because I had the, Butte, Helena and Dillon in Great Falls, I had put them all on my weather app yesterday, just so I could kind of watch it and. Yeah, they're Dillon's supposed to get 6 inches of snow tonight, not till midnight.
Not till midnight. Okay.
So, and this was over at 2,
Oh, well, they were coming back tonight.
Yeah.
so that will be.
What would you say from Dillon, like 6 hours?
4 hours and 50 minutes,
Okay.
but I've never been to it. I did Google it.
You never been to Dillon?
I don't feel like I have,
You've been to Lima?
I've been
but I'd
to
like to go to Lima.
my life of Montana. He said,
No,
gas
about
station.
one of these.
There's just a gas station there, right? In Lima.
They have school.
In the school, yeah. That's
They have a diner.
Oh, they got a diner. Good.
I actually really like Dillon. I think Dillon's a really cute
Dylan,
town.
yeah.
It's
We have quite a
nice.
few teachers who graduated from there.
Yeah.
You haven't been to Dillon? And I was like, I will give you a list of rides to go to, but everything else.
We used to go hunting, elk hunting now. And our exit. Half a mile from Idaho.
Yeah.
You could literally like, oh, there's the Idaho, almost an Idaho, we gotta do it for the guys. But if you needed something, you had to go back to one, and there wasn't a whole lot. That's terrible, the problem.
In Dillon.
Outside, in the mountains around the farmers were,
Oh.
they would like herd the elk, the wolves would. And they would just, the wolves would just continually root them. And so they would, the elk would like,
Yeah.
then they would like move in with the cows. So it was, they had a job, it went from like 3,000 head down there to like 500. Because the wolves would just, when they were hungry, just go and pick one off.
Well, you know, though, honestly, like, spending a lot of time growing up in hunting, there was on Shewitt's farm. And so this farm, then they were basically charging for, people to come down and shoot these high priced elk. So there was kind of a deal, so I know from the hunting community, they're happy to see the elk, not 3,000 head, actually back in the mountains versus. So it's an interesting little situation that kind of developed over the years there.
One of the ones that were in the mountains. Almost all got pushed in on the private for the wolves.
Well, then they had they have a huge grizzly population from the snow crests and stuff. So like when I was a kid, huge.
Is Holly the one there?
huge grizzly population. So like where we used to go, kind of.
Yeah, it's like the grits.
We've had friends, because we haven't been back there in years, but they said, I wouldn't even, unless you're ready to, Brian, like if you get a knock down, you gotta pack it out ASAP because those grizzlies are coming. And that was a good. Fight for the VO queen with the Chris.
My first year I was 12 years old. move forward. And,
That understands this.
and he would guide these people, usually like one or two at a time.
Yeah.
Back
I'm
on.
excited for you. We'll go all out. Already,
So
so
24 miles.
it was funny, because, you're stopping balance and she puts on this,
Half the group would go
like a
like
recipe for Filipino dish.
and that was.
That was fun. You not make this, I was like, no.
It wasn't quite as fast as you did, so.
It was the most random thing, she just searched it up.
I think.
You're like,
This was-
I learned.
Oh, I don't know.
Sure,
That's
that
not
was- and,
That was kind of hard. It's
That
a
one
one
was still
with
set.
just meat and in the middle. So that's incredible.
So we're going in.
It's good. Actually,
And you get in there.
Oh,
It's just me and my dad about to park. And
Very common.
they were good.
The new truck headed down by the, right by the central island.
And they should turn around. It's- we-
Yeah.
That's them off.
Right there for the
And then
first
we-
time. on Saturday.
Yeah.
Is that what you were talking about, like, you have the side you put on? Or no? That was the one.
We had to go.
So that was like the shrimp bowl.
Oh, that was delicious.
And
Yeah.
tacos. We had this little track, this show from outside of those. It was pickled with the avocado. And then.
What is that?
Those are buns, it's called BUN. And it's
Just,
bun, and then it's just got pork. And cilantro and pickled onion.
That looks delicious.
And that was the burger.
They had a.
Okay.
And then there was some gobi, but that was.
So what's the station? Is it like a Asian cuisine?
No.
Because they'll be right there, usually. There's.
Oh, I think, yeah,
Like, it's like the buffet.
The second.
4 or 5 different little restaurants in it, and one was Christian, one was Asian, one was American.
They have a little.
You go and sit down and.
You can order from wherever.
And so you hear.
Yeah.
Because that's what it looks like. You have like every kind of country.
And we're fine with us, we ordered 6 things. Every day it's a little
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Then the whole one sitting on the chair. With his rifle, just like this, just.
What else is it?
That's.
You know where like.
The relocation
Or the
spot.
civic center?
Yeah.
So the civic center was the very end, and then.
That's really dumb.
Out west,
That's like.
it's just off to the right before you go across the bridge, right along the river's edge trail. Not the river's edge, it's right along the. And Gibson Park is kind of on one side of the tracks, and then this is on the other side.
It's not, I've never seen that.
Oh, it's.
I know what roads you're talking about.
Coffee shop in there, and then they just built condos onto the side of it too. So they added these condos here, and then this is part of the old building.
It looks so nice in there. Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
Yeah, and you just sit down and they bring you whatever you want to drink, and then you should QR code, whatever. And then big garage doors, so they could open up to pen.
No, that's cool. I'm definitely gonna, I'm gonna try that out. I love.
Oh, here, this is what it looks like.
Yeah, that's what I saw. So like that. No, I'm gonna go. I'm always trying to look for places to eat.
That's where we, that other engagement, we're talking about shaping, but we were. Little kids. All this stuff.
All right. Yeah, I like visiting my dad in Washington. So, gosh, you can have food everywhere. Yeah, so many restaurants.
Yeah.
So many choices. Yeah. When our old kids like first started living with, all they wanted was McDonald's.
Oh.
Like, we're not eating McDonald's everywhere we're going, like, we don't, we got a McDonald's in Havre, we're not going.
But
If we're in Seattle, I want McDonald's.
That is kind of one of the nice things, I'm just wondering how many old people would have actually. Okay. Dinner, you know, you don't know that? You don't have to stop and go back.
Yes, there is one. Moses and I were just talking about, there's a new restaurant in Great Falls called The Station. And it's down in the Milwaukee Station. And it's got 5 different restaurants in it. And you just go and QR code when you walk in, pick absolutely everything, and they bring your drinks to you, but then you go and pick up whatever. It's like a food court, but nice. And so we went there last Saturday and it was very fun.
And she had a full from every country of us. She had tacos, hamburgers.
My mom and my sisters and Maid and I had just been to a funeral and we're like, hey, let's go there. And then we just cut everything and it was delightful. Oh, gosh.
We're taking them in.
Like, makes sense.
You don't
Do
get
a little
it.
pepper.
It says only,
Oh.
it was pretty clean and in pretty good shape. It's still in good shape, but it was a lot cleaner. And then I had to, my baler went down. So I had to pump my first baler. And he has an open air tractor that he had attached to him. Like, you know, I can probably hook this up to my tractor. He's like, oh, no, just use mine. You know how dusty an open air tractor is when you're bending? It's awful.
It can't
Yes.
be like, oh.
Awful. I would blow dirt out my nose for like at least a day. You'd have to take it to the hottest shower in the world and it's just like black. Oh gosh, it was hot. You got your ears. It was dark. It was terrible. And this thing was, it was.
You throw them in the washing machine? I wash all the way fast.
On one of those little plastic,
Yeah.
Wrap.
It doesn't mess them up.
just closes over the.
Well, not anymore.
You can't,
And then there's a whole basket of them clean on top of the washer.
you can't risk
Gets a new
losing,
one out of it.
can't risk losing the shape.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like,
What you do is, you use dish soap,
It's correct.
the blue,
Yeah.
Yeah.
none of that other colors work.
Blue Dog gets almost anything out of it.
Yes, yes. And you scrub it with a toothbrush. Get an old toothbrush.
Or you just throw it in the washing machine.
Now, you lose the shape.
I'm with Tim on this, but you don't want to lose the shape of your head.
You lose the shape of your hat, you might as well just throw it in the garbage, it's worthless.
Maybe that's why they're all clean in the basket on the.
You
don't see Wade getting them dirty again.
And then if you have that, Wade's probably got that MVP or Gojo.
Yeah.
After you use Dawn dish soap, then you use that. Then it
What
smells-
is that? Like a bleach?
It's a citrus cleaner,
Oh.
and that smells nice.
Gets all the
There you
oil off your
Yeah.
hands. too.
So you get rid of all the
Gets
dirt,
rid
you
of
get rid of all the dirt with the Dawn,
Mhm.
and it gets rid of some of the oil in that. Citrus cleaner gets rid of all the oil on there. It's like a brand new app.
Right, if you buy something and like it's
Yes.
on there and it won't come off and.
And
it's
I can't
got
appreciate
residue,
that, though, I'm with you on
And
that.
then you have the shape.
And wipe it.
You
Yeah, the right-
strategically get cups that are the right shape, size to your hat, you dry your hat on, so that you don't lose the shape of this. That's the most important part.
Well,
But only certain
I'm
cups.
a pinhead, so every hat is too big on me, so maybe that's why I don't care. Like, I have to wear junior's glasses.
No, see, I have one coffee cup. I don't know how long, but that's what I use to grab. It's just. It keeps the shape, and it's only been washed about a dozen times, that's not the shape, that's all I do. That's awesome.
That's perfect.
I tried those like snap ones, those ones that like, you just don't, I think it's because they get too hot.
Oh, maybe. That could definitely. be
Like,
good.
when it's a kid,
We should have a problem, it's just like large, not.
It was very good.
Like ridiculous.
Yeah, the soup was awesome. Thank you guys.
Really good.
Yeah.
Very good. Families and sit there, I don't know where we stopped.
Well, I was waiting for your gumbo.
I did. I'm glad they had fun too. Oh, it's actually, thank you. Oh, still be in the long. Great,
Just need to hang on.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to tell your husband, thank you for delivering.
Oh, yeah. Who does?
That's like a little fee. She puts in the work, they really good. It's for workers for 2 weeks, always running stuff up there.
I thought if something happens to him, I'm gonna have to like retire.
And he just does it with a smile.
Yeah.
Kind of forward motion.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't even know Infinity did that in those different bags.
Yeah.
So it makes it easy, you know. Scoop
And it's
up.
perfect gate for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're one of the first businesses to always sponsor stuff, you know. and
Yeah.
I don't even know. There's some that don't sponsor anything, but now they're very reliable.
Yeah.
They're just nice people.
She's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had St. Charles learning, it was like a learning statement or whatever, they brought the guy. And then lady from Infinity was there and kind of chat. I don't know why HRDC would do something voluntary in August, but that was.
Oh, yeah.
Show us that someone cooking for Thanksgiving.
The guy picked all these.
That's-
I have her daughter in middle school.
Very lucky to have option. For people.
Well, first of all, I think we just want to say up front that we'd like to be community connected. Okay. Everybody wants to be community connected. That being said, your proposal 7, what we're proposing for the financial offer, were $250 added to steps 16 through 20. That this is how we feel about it. Right now, we're working 11 and a half hours over what we used to work for the 5-day with no compensation for that. The last 2 years, we had an extra PIR day added into both of those schedules, both of those calendars, which was
Montana Code Annotated Violation.
yeah, so we've done that. This year on calendar, there was an extra support Friday thrown in, for next year, I should say. We were at 14 and 15, so it's just like it's, you know, it's getting like more and more thrown on us. And we did talk to the principals about the concept of like splitting the shift on a support Friday. And
Were we at 7 though, Rhonda?
what's that?
Are we talking on?
Yes.
No?
But we're tying it back into the money is not equal to what we're doing, and that's what I'm tying it into. The principals that we all talked to, we asked how they would feel if, or what it would look like if they had a split shift type thing. And 3 of them said they would make it work, that whatever was thrown at them, that they could make it work. 2 of them actually said, why are we not just going to straight 4 days instead of split Fridays? What about that? What was said with the principals? Anything additional? Can't remember, that's all.
That was as far as their feedback, yeah, I think so. Yeah, as far as, yeah, admins, that was basically the gist of things.
Yeah, so, one principal, we won't mention names, had a negative viewpoint on it, but other than that, everybody seemed like they were okay with it. So we're just bringing that up because, if something is not done really with the with the support Friday, say more than what we have here, we cannot settle for that amount of money because, I honestly don't think our people will even ratify the contract because they're that adamant about it. So this whole thing is about money and time. And so we need to either feel like we're being compensated fairly or our workload may be lessened.
This is uncomfortable for me to say no, because I like to help everybody out, and then I try to fix, and then it turns not good. But I've been getting like daily emails about Support Friday, like daily emails from people about Support Friday, that they don't feel like it's work and that it's not a true 4-day work week. And I feel bad because I want to say, okay, let's make this work. Let's make this work. Let's be done with this tonight. And it's hard for me to not do that because I don't like being uncomfortable. I know everybody doesn't like being uncomfortable. We've got to do something different.
Well,
Yeah, and what we've been hearing is if those lanes aren't fixed and the Support Fridays do, because our CBA will not be ratified and then be back here. Yeah.
well, I definitely, like, as far as the trying to reduce the workload on Support Friday, this is not intended to harm students in any way. Especially, because we're all trying to go towards the same common goal of just providing each student with tools and experiences to be successful in their own life and positively influence the world. And I think the success of students honestly depends on the sustained capacity of educators, I think if we alternated Fridays, it gives staff time to reflect, plan, and rest, enhancing the quality of instruction and engagement during the rest of the week.
Just a quick thought, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of the contract piece, you do realize though, you agreed to the 2.5 in the insurance, so that piece is already agreed upon.
Oh, I said that we only agreed to that if we could fix those lanes 16 through 20.
That's what I would call it.
That was the fugitive.
That was my understanding and recollection as well, that you guys said you would consider the 2.5 if you looked at the increase.
So in kind of keeping with that though, right? So do you have a proposal on the lanes then?
I think we need to discuss it further because we touched on it, but we thought we should bring that forth first, so.
We wanted to kind of circle back to the proposal A first and discuss that at length a little bit more. Because we feel like they, kind of like y'all said, we tie together, and we kind of feel as well as they tie together. Because we feel like if the proposal A can stay as is, then we honestly feel like we need to get more proposals. Let's go, at least. That's our feeling. So we wanted to kind of circle back to A first and see if we can make any, come to a compromise that we both feel happy with.
With this aid, I want to make.
Yeah, that's the support plan.
This.
Because on the conferences one that we talked about, right?
And
Like that was,
you did, I did see,
that was,
and I
that was.
appreciate that, and that was a suggestion brought up by teachers. I do appreciate that, and I want you guys to know that.
Absolutely.
For the tiny bit, little something else, we need help. Brian, I'm telling you this and I'm being honest. I am hearing from teachers about this, and I'm hearing that is not what the job description is. It says a 4-day work week.
For new hires.
For new hires.
And
I'm here because I'm here long-term. I'm here because I have family here. I'm not going anywhere. When we get these emails that we're tracking people into jobs here, I feel
Where is it saying this for new hires?
On the website, if you look at it.
It's very representative, like, oh, you have a 40 for free. I think it says,
So strategically
yeah.
placed,
but
4
when people
days.
read that, they're like, oh. It's just.
That was the email we got yesterday. We just.
Last year was our first year, and we will again have a 4-day school week with strategically placed Fridays to provide extra support to students. It just feels, I guess, and when you look at the actual numbers of like, all right, 6 less days and I'm fine work, you know, and more hours, you know, that's kind of the concern.
Well, it's definitely more than 6 days less. Because there's a whole host of extra Fridays than other non-school Fridays.
One other question I have, when you guys say like there are 15 more supports than there were 14, there were 15 next year, 14 this year. To me, that seems like it would be a positive that you guys are getting one more half day works instead of a full day. But when you guys say that, it sounds like that too is a negative, that you would rather work that as a full day than a half day.
Well, why does it have to be that way? I kind of feel like our intention of going to hours, like schools like Chinook have went to and other schools in the area, they've gotten away from the days. So I kind of feel like we're held in limbo between, you know, the days and hours. Now we've got both.
But there are a lot smaller schools and we could give a lot more individual help.
I'm not sure what that means.
Well,
I just wanted to understand, since you guys have brought it up a couple of times, and I just want to understand when you say 15 instead of 14, it seems like that's a definite negative. And I'm just trying to understand, would you rather that be?
So big picture, we went from a contract in 5 days a week, our contract was 187 days, and now we're working 80, and we're working more hours. So does that?
Well, because next year's calendar is 15, it's just under 1,500 hours, right? And I believe that is close to where we were. Where we were.
Previously, you were 48 hours.
Okay.
So
it's not really about the 14 versus the 13 for you guys. It's about hours total.
Well, I guess it was just one more thing, like the straw that broke the camel's back, adding one more support Friday, especially in December, you know, that really is a lot of that.
And day to day, our workload has blown up and nothing's ever been taken off.
One thing I will like to also bring up, and Tim, you were on the original 4-day work week, and you said at the first meeting, you were like, Jamie, so we have to have a certain percentage, which I think is important to look at. But I think there's months we could look at that it's just not even worth people's.
the amount of attendance percentage wise as well.
Well, I think there's one key piece to this is as far as schools that have gone to a 4-day school week, their first 2 years are not great as far as performance. That's just a statistical number. We didn't have it. Our schools didn't have that drop off. Our schools kept the performance where they're at and actually improved, right? So saying that the Fridays aren't working is not a true statement. They are working. The performance is doing better than what our counterparts that went to 4-day week. So they did do what they were intended to do, which is to increase the ability of our students. Whether you get every low performing kid in your class there, but you're never going to get them there anyways. Most days out of 4, you're probably only going to get all of your low kids there, 2 out of the 4 that you're going to get them all there. So that they're not all coming out on Friday, You're not getting there during the regular week anyways, but we get part of it, that's a plus. We're still making progress. As far as, I keep hearing that we have not given you any guys anything. Your guys' insurance was paid for last year. It's paid for this year. We covered the whole thing. When we revisited it last year. I mean, we have continued to provide things for you. It may not have been in your stuff, but we've continued to cover things as time has gone on. We've continued to do the best we can with the resources that we have to make sure that we are trying to find ways to compensate you guys. Like last year was 16% increase.
This year was at 9.5.
And we covered the whole thing last year. We covered it. Most places we didn't give a 16.5% increase covered. We did. We covered it. We found ways to make it work. And then we got pretty creative in doing it. So, yeah, there was not a huge percentage increase. And I'll be the first to tell you that. And that's not where the district wanted to be, but that's what we had. Did we sell even additionally creative to make that next piece work? We did. This was agreed upon when we first looked at it. This was something that was agreed upon. Now, granted, everybody told us we would be out of it by Christmas. When we were there, Jane, you were at all the meetings I was. Everybody said, if you put something in on Fridays, you'd probably be done with it.
Yes.
And I understand that piece of it. But if you look at what other schools did, they were down to less than 5% of participation on Fridays. Right, close to it. So, I mean, we're not seeing what other places saw, but we're getting different results than other places have gotten.
And just to add to Tim's comments, I think the other spot, just I want you guys to understand kind of where we're at. So when the calendar committee, which the HEA had representation on, looked at the 2-year calendar that we're currently operating under, parents, over 60% of the parents said they liked and wanted to keep supports. And, you know, this was a calendar that 2 years ago HEA brought forward. And many teachers got up in public comment and said, here's why these supports are so important. Here's why they're needed and necessary and going to help our students thrive. And so that came from our educators. So I think for us, the other issue is not only do our parents, they're saying they want it. We have, you know, over 40% of our kids showing up on Support Fridays. Our attendance has been better. Our, you know, behavior has been better. Our grades have been better. And so in addition to those things that are all good things, when we take away at Support Friday, we also lose money for transportation and food service, which our district really needs as much money as we can coming in from any avenue that we. So kind of taken together as this big picture, while you guys are getting pressure from your teachers, we're also getting pressure from the community. And like, we've been working really hard to go out and advocate for the middle levy, for example. And, you know, I've had multiple people say at different times when they were put out with the calendar that we're currently operating under, you know, what you guys are doing is not good for kids. That is the thing I have repeatedly heard with the calendar we're running. And so I think it becomes that much harder for us to go out and advocate with the community to say, pay more taxes, but we're going to offer less school days for our kids.
I have a sister who also owns a business too in town, and she goes, it's not about the 4-day, it's about people can't afford it.
One, I
Just
just,
like inflation, 9%.
and I think that's a different issue, just affordability, and I totally understand where she's coming from.
Are you talking for the levy standpoint?
Yeah.
This was last time when we didn't have, it had nothing to do with the 4-day work week. It had to do with the tax, the property taxes.
And to clarify, Jane, I'm not saying that's the reason it failed.
I know.
I'm just saying, when we go out to talk to community members, that's one of the things that they.
Yeah.
So we're trying to be cognizant and want to do something that, you know, is working with you guys, like you said last time, like, please give us something that we can take back. So we tried to do that. But I want you guys to understand kind of where we're at in terms of being, you know, hearing from our community members and where the parents are at and students too.
You know, and to kind of play off what Tim and Kristen said too, with that performance of students showing up and then how that relates to sports. I mean, that's a direct tribute to all of you though, too, right? Like that's you guys knocking it out of the park and doing a great job. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of great things we can take from that to say, you know, now kind of like Kristen was saying too, you have parents kind of okay with where that's at. You know, like when I ran a survey, I was kind of a little bit surprised to see the parents really have navigated this process and the format and the number of days. And I feel like what the information I got back from that survey was like, they're okay with it. They're okay. But that's one of our apprehensions is to say we completely do away with them. That may not be favorable at all.
No,
I don't think that's I think I understand that they're not gonna go.
But you also understand, Cullen, because you guys have put out a couple of other options, and 2 of those we've met. We come out and said, okay, from the monetary amount on that, the support, we won't take the full amount, and then also the parent teacher conference is okay, we've done this. So we're thinking also though, like you guys have asked, we're kind of meeting in the middle on these.
yeah.
And then we come back, well, we need more. So that from our end, right?
I
Kind of
know,
go-
I know. Well, we had asked for the multiplier here, and that is very far from.
The multiplier of that monetarily is a big ask. A very big ask.
Well, and about the support Fridays, just back to that for a minute is, you know, half staff on those would still keep all of the support Fridays. You know, I don't think that's unreasonable. So it's just some, you know, just another thing to look at.
Okay, since you're saying, Jane, you guys are, what are your guys' feelings about half staff? What have you guys asked about half staff? What do you guys think about that?
When I had talked to the person who had proposed it, it was said in a way that you would have half staff and have support Friday every Friday.
Yeah, that's.
That was what was brought up by the principal who said half staff. He said, you know, it goes in part with, then we would have a support Friday every Friday. Because we want that for our kids. So I did talk to him.
Well, I don't know why, what our schedule right now, why wouldn't that be meeting the needs? I mean, if it's met the needs for the last 2 years, why would we have to add more? It's not like the kids are coming in shifts.
I was just saying that was the original intent of the person who brought it up.
Yeah.
Because I asked,
Yeah.
thinking, you know, how do you navigate having partial staff in some of the buildings? Because in some buildings, I think it would be more difficult than just logistically.
How many do you normally get, Jane?
Between 6 and 8.
And the other 3rd grade teaching?
I think Trish gets the most, but I think it also depends on the socioeconomic of kids for certain kids.
What do you want?
Last year, we ended up with 10 months, but this year it's more erratic, like between 7 and 16. But then we have several teachers that now 3, 4.
Yeah, I don't see any 16s for you, Erin. I see 2 14s.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking about last year too.
Okay, got it.
Last year I had 2.
I guess you guys brought up what the principal said. The principal saying we can make it work is not the same as their full order against it.
Well, I don't
I mean,
like
during-
principals against teachers
Right.
either, 100%. I do not like.
A principal
I
saying,
don't want to do that.
a principal saying, whatever's brought up will make it work. They also told us that during COVID. I mean, repeatedly.
We did make it work in COVID, all of us here. did.
Right, but when they were asked if we should send out elementary kids back 5 days or just leave them 4 where they're at, well, we'll just make it work. Well, that wasn't really what they wanted, but that's what it said. Because they could make it work. They might not have been the most ideal, but they would make it work. And I'm not saying that you guys weren't involved in that as well, because you guys were the direct ones that had to make it, right?
And we
Because
also,
somebody saying they can make it work is not the same as them saying they're for or against. They're not gonna take a stand, because they're not going, their intent is not to come out and be against what where you guys are at. And they're not gonna come out, mostly not gonna come out against where the district's at. We're gonna play the middle, because that's really what they've gotta do. They've got to keep their teachers in a good spot, as well as the district. Okay, so them saying that doesn't mean that the 3 are either for or against. I mean, that's.
So back to the money for a minute. So are you saying that the school district cannot afford to pay what we have proposed? Like fixing those lanes?
Yeah, it's almost, it's a huge like uptick to what we originally had proposed.
But does that mean we can't afford to pay it as a district? Or we just choose to put money elsewhere?
What percent of our general fund
So
goes
right
to
now,
salary?
like general funds,
Is that what
like
you're saying, kind of?
we're like 91%.
And that's including the double QEP,
Yeah, that's, yeah. With where we're at now.
with the stars out.
Yes, yeah.
And the general fund?
And then adding the 2.5% as well. With that. We're gonna be at 91% for elementary and high school.
And as you know, Christine, from navigating those components, you know, where you'd like to keep district thresholds in terms of percentages, that's the very top end, right? Versus where it's where you should, right, where initially you'd like to have is in that 80%, and then kind of moved up to 85%, and then it became 90s, the new threshold that you want to keep. Because you think about that other 10% covers everything else.
if you look at Havre Public Schools over the past 10 years, in 2013, 2015, we were at about 80% to 81% of the general fund. And now we're at like 91. And the general rule is whatever you do, don't go over 90.
One thing I was going to say is, Tim, and I appreciate your heartfelt comments, I do. We also have to go back and look at our teachers.
Sure.
And those, and we have to go in
I get
the
it.
trenches. We are with them. We are the ones that have to do that, and this is hard for us too.
And Jane and the rest of you guys here, my intent is to have a conversation. And my intent is not to attack you guys or like say something to offend you or anything like that. It's have a conversation. That's why we're here, right? That's why we have our open table negotiation.
We appreciate that.
So before this was literally, you guys brought a proposal, we went upstairs and we brought back our counter proposal, and there was no discussion at the table. Those were extremely difficult and very unproductive negotiations. So we say these things, but it's not to, we're not here to offend or anything like that. We're here to have an open dialogue discussion in order to get to the solution that can get this done in.
Okay, so you're saying the solution. When were the months where there was least support, I mean, there wasn't good enrollment for support Friday?
Well, can we take out the October 31st or November 1st or whatever that one was?
The day after Halloween.
Day after Halloween. If we go ahead and just nix that,
Now,
As an outlier, right? Let's take that one out of the equation, because that was a terrible choice by the calendar committee as a whole.
Yeah.
And once the school year started, people looked at it, it's like, what?
James.
Especially if you get close to it. It was a bad decision to put it that day.
Yeah, which we already agreed on. I think moving forward in the best interest, right? Because we know where you all are at. Right? You kind of shared with us your thoughts on this is in an effort to resolve this for everyone, right? Because you can clearly see in the amount of meetings we've had, the discussion points, the parts that we've agreed upon, we've had a lot of successes in coming back and forth and meeting a lot of the needs you asked, right? So we've been really diligent on creating an environment where we have met an awful lot of requests, right? I think we can all agree upon that. So at this point with this, it would be most advantageous really to have from you all kind of from the cells, right? Kind of what you're thinking. And then that other piece with the support so that we kind of know for sure, because I feel like we've been given some options on sports and we met them and it wasn't quite enough. So kind of come with something that you would be ready to agree upon.
Yeah, we'll have thoughts. We'll go back real quick.
Can we agree to meet in like 15 minutes?
Yeah.
I know everybody wants to get.
That's fine.
Otherwise, I go to bed early.
Does that sound good?
We need to be realistic too,
Sounds good.
realistic on both parts,
Sounds good.
fair.
Sounds good.
Here, you're like jabbing me in tonight.
Oh, I am not. You were not.
I mean that. Tonight,
In a very loving way, James.
Do you tell my
James, that
boss
might sound
of the 2.5 and maybe
Good luck.
all the way down? What was your approximate for that?
So the cost that's what I wanted to say too, is, so the cost that I had, if you put the index in there,
Yep,
it's $154,076, like extra.
For just
That's
support.
added to the 2.5%.
okay,
Because in my spreadsheet here, I mean, there's 25 individuals.
in that area?
Yeah, in that
That's
area.
because there's
And so
25.
it's just taking into account like their next step and then also just the index, that salary,
Okay, yep, because
the
I have,
multiplier.
okay, for next year, I had a total of like 478,000. That's with the matrix going all the way down. Year after,
Wait.
then it would be 348,000. And I think it must be because people might be stuck on that
That
bottom
bottom,
or
that
something.
Could be.
Okay,
Yeah.
already,
And our just biggest thing is just like, if that is what they want, it takes away all the stars.
well,
And we're
then
already-
we've got,
and
there's
we're already at
465,000 for the Stars Act approximately.
Yeah, so and we're, like Logan said, we're already at 90%, like,
Too long.
yeah, 90% salaries.
Okay.
Support credit every time this year.
Sure,
Sure of that?
yeah, no. No, because I didn't do my home.
I say that.
We can send it to you on an email, Christine.
Send it to you.
What's that? I apologize. Yes, that'd be wonderful. I've apologized to them. I've got 18 locals to go to the 18. I do a Stars Act and everything else, so.
Yeah.
And it looked more positive as you saw.
Yep.
Today. That was good.
Yep.
That was a solid.
Yeah.
Email, yep, because I can get it right on my phone or my
A
computer.
little bit bigger.
Thanks, Christine.
Absolutely. Well, and again, I know where they're coming from and I know they're gone already. You know, Stars Act all the time speaks to starting salary. And I understand that we need to meet starting salary, but we also need to think about those people who've been here for years.
And that's honestly for those with that 25. That's what we felt like
Yep.
adding those additional, like we value that 100% too, like we want that
Yep.
stability. So we're trying to come up with where can we give, the acknowledgement that certainly deserves, but at the same time, make the whole big picture work. That's all we're looking at.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, great. If you could send that, that's wonderful. We'll be back.
I didn't put on one of the schools for last year, but the rest
Okay.
are in there.
I hope I didn't.
So, and
You could have said. You ever put that, 40% means. Yeah. Your standards.
Her too, because there's been different people negotiating for HEA each year. And so I don't think that they, have that
kind of the background.
latent memory of this is what we did before.
Sure.
So, I think it's easy to forget that
The town,
16%
average last year.
covered that.
Hey, you hear your support right now.
Yeah.
It's like.
And I was on negotiations many times, and they asked for stars and, but you knew in the end that was it, you settled.
The other tab has last year's, but I don't have sunny sides.
That's the use, like.
Oh, yes.
It's gonna be a number, it's just a huge amount.
Those going on. So there's a mortgage like that's choose the plan.
Maybe I'm understanding this wrong.
But here's the amount we cover. You know what I mean? So there can always be, if they
So it's already more than that.
want.
It's from, so this is just from south to south, so like, if you just take like. All right, this one from south to south, if you take that, something, this, that's what it is. That's why I thought I was. But. I agree, so the whole.
That we try to more equitable. This is the process.
But I think what makes them nervous too is this right here, when you're going down.
Can't say it's too
But this is kind of, I think this is what they're saying. So when you're going down,
Crystal there's like. So Florence.
it gets lower right here, which I get from, but now from where that is.
Really desired in the journey. Because they don't feel like they got out from the day.
Work for them off.
Exactly. So how that went down with for the past. Now
You're fighting, not able to figure out the films would get back, but.
So that's kind of the stall that process. So. The community needs to go through this very.
So we're pretty comparable to last year.
Our last two have been lower than last year's report. Before that, we were at.
Like, it,
Yeah.
we're very comparable, like, we're not dropping off. I mean, there's,
We're chugging along.
you take out that November 1st one.
Yeah.
Well, the dip that we had after that was when it was super cold.
Yeah.
But then.
And there's gonna be
look at the
times,
last
right?
2 weeks, for the last 2 times.
Yeah. There's gonna be times where.
But I mean, we're pretty, and last year we did the same thing about this. But we're pretty comparable. We really haven't seen an increase. I mean, we have the peaks and valleys of this based upon the time of year during the season. At quarter time, at the high school, you see a giant uptick. Beginning and middle of the quarter and semester, you see, not a whole lot, but as soon as you start getting towards that end, all of a sudden it's.
I bet I could send it to Moses and he could put it in a bar chart right next to each other.
He's good. He's
Friday to
good.
Friday in about 2 minutes.
So let's do this while they're talking. Depending on the variation that they come back with. What is our thoughts on the not reducing the number for the kids, but figuring out a creative way with the staff cover it? Is that something, Holly, you think is doable?
Well, I wasn't really encouraged by the comments from the principals, to be honest, but what you're saying, Tim, like saying we would make it work, to me, is like, we really don't like that idea.
Yeah, we're gonna tell you
Do it if we had to. They're not gonna, yeah.
I think you walk a very fine line as a principal because you never, ever don't want to support your staff,
Great.
100%.
ever, and nor in any position that we're in right now.
Right.
I mean, you have to support your staff and you have to figure out how to make things work. And you don't want to alienate anybody. So you're always gonna make whatever you're given work, because that's your job.
Right. I mean, did I point that out well enough that just because they see that it can make it work, don't mean it's a good option. Like I brought up COVID because I was really
I think whatever they come back with, we're just gonna have to caucus on it.
I'm not a, I would rather go to one a month than go to half. Myself, I would rather go one per month than go to 50% of the teachers show up. Because I don't think the 50% teachers show up is a good option. If 10 teachers are gone,
Well, and we can see this year where the attendance of the teachers has gone, gone down.
Let me ask you this, in terms of thinking about variations, maybe if it's a matter of, because there's always different angles. It's a matter of there's two supports versus one. If we made the one Friday a full day, right, created like 2 sessions for the kids. So essentially we're doing 2 sports in one day. No, we just kind of go 8 to noon now, Ollie. If we went longer, would we be offering? You know what I mean? There's just all these variations to think about.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of what this is about for them is the number of times during the month that they're showing up for sports and food. I think that if they would like to have the least amount of Fridays that they have to show up for, because as you can see those conversations, they keep rotating back to a true 4-day, right? This is really about the number of times. Their big goal is about the number of days.
Well, and that's what I was trying to clarify with saying, it sounds like the one support Friday extra or additional this year is very negative thing for you. Is this about number of support Fridays, or then they kind of said, no, it's about the hours. But kind of what you're saying, Brian, is that keeps getting brought up, that one
Yes.
extra support Friday. So I'm like, okay,
That's what I'm seeing.
Well, if you have a full
honest
day,
mistake that they.
why do you not make it mandatory?
Well, but that might be the caveat. Maybe it's the full day.
But as a parent, if I send my kid for a full day, I want that full day to be enriching for them. I do not want them put on an iPad and sat there all day, or to be told that my kid's teacher is treating it like daycare that day.
100%.
So that's my other concern, is to say that it's not mandatory. Then I question, well, how enriching is it going to be if it's not mandatory?
But that's what I'm kind of getting at, guys, is I think we're gonna have to think in order to meet this of start looking from our options to what is the best piece that we could do for kids, because I really believe at the end of the day, it's they want as close to just straight 4 days without having any sports as possible.
I think one of the issues though that you're seeing on kind of the attendance on those support Fridays is, the kids, I think for elementary school kids that don't have homework and aren't expected to make things up, that one full day a month is doable. But when you're a high school student that's involved in activities and you're missing school or middle school,
Kind of random.
you're missing those randomly,
Yeah.
that becomes more difficult for them to make up those tests, those things. I mean, especially because we have teachers that are really involved with kids. So they're not there after school because they're coaching like an activity and they're involved in other things, which is awesome. But they're not available to kids after school. So, what I'm hearing too is that's why people and these kids like the support Fridays in middle school and high school, because they do have the option to go make that stuff up if we're running a 4-day the other week.
And I do think that's kind of the differentiation between the middles, like 6 through 12 and K through 5 is it's really hard in the K-5 world, and this is only my perception, I don't want to say for everybody, but to be able to move on and continue enriching for every child that shows up without starting something new in your curriculum. Because you don't want to do that and then have not introduced it to the other students that aren't there. So you have to find how to meet and differentiate for all the students that are there and continue their forward growth.
Yeah, because you noticed when you mentioned the pushback on, well, if we're gonna do half staff, then it would be every.
And that was because I had asked, I had gone and talked to people and said,
And you noticed, you saw how favorable that one.
but that was what was originally said.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
And that was important to clarify.
Exactly, so you know where I'm getting at. It's, the hard part is it's not, we don't. We know that we hyped up on that, but things are good. That's not what this is about.
I would think. I would be more comfortable with one per month. Because they're not gonna know where the other kids are. And that's just reality. Especially if you get the kids that really need the help show up. For both classes, there's no way you can deal with those kids. You want a chance. So I would, and then, okay, so if I only get 5 kids show up, there's some fun, cool stuff with 5 kids. We can do some fun activities and still be learning.
Oh, that's it. I mean, it's a great time to collaborate and work together too.
Yeah, and if I only have 3 and you have 5. Hey, you wanna, I don't know, you wanna work together with these kids today? And we'll do something, we'll do a fun activity while they're working together. Maybe we can talk through some things that we're saying and different things like that. Why you can't do that on their own?
Well, then they have that opportunity now.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, why are they not doing this?
Well, and I know, just from going up to the high school quite a bit on those support Fridays, that they are, spending those 2 hours for the majority of the time in department meetings and working and, you know, and then sometimes kids will show up, and they pop out and go and help them and they have them for the other 2 hours. And, you know, I look at certain programs that we have, maybe music is a perfect example. I don't know of a time when there's less than 50 kids there, that you have 1 or 2 people trying to help 50 to 200 kids. I mean, you think of district music festival and state and all of these things that they've been happening, and there's a lot. So, I mean, if you weren't there,
Yeah.
That's my take on it. That's just.
and that was one of the original suggestions.
Was.
And I guess, I mean, I've expressed this before, but then you're cutting it by 7 days for kids. And you're cutting the calendar by 7 days. And to me, you know, I'm not sure that, I don't feel like that's in the best interest of kids. And I don't think that that is something parents are gonna be very excited about. So.
And don't you suppose that word gets enough about those negotiations, don't you suppose that that gets out there? But may not be what,
It's recorded.
yeah.
There's a lot of people watching, a lot of teachers, a lot of staff, but
Do you have a lot of people do this?
we're getting more traction.
Very good. You know, singing is heartfelt.
Very good. And I mean, I feel like our team up has tried very diligently through this process to come up with a lot of ways to agree to many things. At the end of the day, all of our best interest is protecting the system that now seems to be working for our kids. That's my number one, is protecting that system. At the same time, recognizing needs or areas that we could adjust. We always want to do that, right? That's why it's negotiations. But we have to have a certain line to.
Well, and if you look at these proposals and what we've agreed to, we have agreed
That's what I'm
and
saying.
given on
Done a lot.
every single one.
Done a lot
We haven't gotten a single thing we've asked for yet.
on this. That's what I wanted to try to remind in this setting, when it felt like, I don't feel it, it was like, we've done a tremendous
We mentioned on
on a lot of these things.
And you still go back to the teachers and you say, this is the best we can do. And they'll say, we know you're trying hard, you know.
I mean, we spent a lot of time, as you guys know, because you all have been in the loop with a lot of discussions that Holly and Moses and I had in efforts to now finally get to a point years later of creating a balanced budget that's actually going to be positive moving forward versus we have no idea where the money is and why we're in these huge shortfalls. So this is kind of the stars passing, right? The levy, we have all these elements now in our favor. So it'd be great to be able to go forward with our intention versus
They had no idea that it would cost them those kind of money, those understands.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, when they came, they said it was like 7 teachers, I think, or 12.
Well,
I think you're right,
I didn't
Kirsten.
realize how many people fell into that.
25 and 7, you're right.
Yeah.
When we first heard 7 too, we thought, well, 7,
it was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
that's not that bad. 25,
And then when you filter them out, you're like, yep, 25.
25,
And then when you truly look at the numbers, yeah. 25 teachers give me $150,000 raise.
that's a different deal.
That's really good. Other pretty substantial. Jump there.
Really. You know, and that's always the part of this is we all value what they do so much and we see the need, that's it, all those great things. That's why I was trying to come and stand quick to say those great scores and the good work we're doing, we're direct mainline to your effort, which is amazing. Like if other districts can't pull this off, but we are, it says a lot about you. It says you guys are amazing that we're getting this done. So that's huge.
I do think we have absolutely amazing teachers.
We do.
We do. I mean, we are
Knock it out
very
the park,
blessed.
teachers.
They're good.
Well, and
They give so much time, effort, and everything. to do.
the fact that 40% of our kids
Right.
want to be at school when they don't have to be with
That's
those
huge.
teachers is a huge
It
testament
is. Do you?
to those individuals and our district and the people in them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Keep going back to the, how many hours were they required before?
they said,
1488.
but I didn't think, were there hours in that CBA? Because I was
The
thinking.
CBA just says you can't go over 1510.
Yeah, or 1510.
But before this one,
Before this one, the previous one that was a 5-day, I think it was just 187 days was how it was written. Because
do you remember how many hours were in each one? No, we don't.
But that was part of what we had to do when we converted was to say, okay, now we gotta also put this into hours. But then the HEA didn't like it just being like hours, like they gave those other schools example. We tried to do that just in terms of hours. But they didn't like that because you could have taken that same amount of hours and gone back to a 5-day school week had you chosen. So that's how the 180 days and hours got put into
And
that
came to be.
CBA, yes. So if you get rid of the number of days but keep the hours, it actually gives you more flexibility in terms of how you structure your calendar anyways. That's why those little schools are doing that. And that would actually be good for us, I think, but they didn't want that 2 years ago. And I can understand why, but.
That's right.
Let's see if I can find the whole CBA.
I don't remember when it was.
I was.
I don't remember if it was.
And what-
So honestly, though, I mean, make all those work, like for instance, I just did it last night and this morning in order to then shore up the college calendar, right? Because with the German immersion school, they don't want to start till 8:30, they want to end at 3:30. So the supports on this have to be longer in order to take those minutes over, and you need that contact. So I had to figure out minutes on the supports at 2-week intervals. How many extra minutes do I need to now funnel into the support? Because it's every other essentially, right? In order to get that same contact time. So, there's a lot of those elements and, at the end of the day, we have to have a certain amount of stuff with our kids to make it work. And I just don't like to completely abandon that right now. I think our community is so upset. I just think it does not go over remotely well, especially all the time we all have put in. You three have been with me advocating for this and doing those kind of things and stuff. And every meeting I've been to, they're like, thank you so much for coming out.
Yes.
And you and Lorraine, I was there, and Chris and I, and they're like, this is really helpful. Thank you for explaining this, right? So we've had a ton of really positive feedback there. So I don't want to take the support we've been building with the community too now, where they're really on board and go.
Well, and the timing of it will be really bad. If that happens to pass the May 6th ballot and the following week, you go and you ratify a CBA that drastically changes your school calendar and you didn't seek community support on it. I mean, the timing of that is just, like you said, horrendous. It has the makings of a
Big bad bunch. Speaking from, your heart on what you feel like is important. I mean, I think when we have these conversations too, if you're going to open up it, get freely to say these comments, right? We're gonna have comments as well on why we feel like this is important to us too. So that's not, I don't think anybody said anything out of line. I've heard lots of comments on their side on, what they think, and at times, comments that I didn't think necessarily should be voiced. In terms of dates and things like that, I don't feel like that's, information that would be good to ever be shared. I don't think that's what was founded, well, providing education to our.
Well, like Kristen said, it reflects back on that person. Not the district.
Yeah, no, because we've got a ton of teachers that are out there doing amazing things with kids on those days. And the kids really love it, they wouldn't be there. They wouldn't be going in and doing this, they didn't buy into it.
Figure out why I've been so stupid, I forgot to say on that. Explains why.
Is this shirt it's there? Can you see? Yeah, very good.
Jay, did you make those brownies?
No, those were from the lip test.
Okay, they were darn good. I was like, Jane, you're really good. You're good.
But me, live right next door to the lip test.
You know, Jane, I have yet to try those.
It's been a lot of people like Havre on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, very popular. for Christmas.
Yeah, that's a tradition of.
Well, I gotta try. it.
Oh, you're gonna order it. You don't have to order that, like,
Yeah, that's all. Yep, it's, yep.
Big guy.
I didn't know.
or you can't. They don't have that.
I
They don't have-
didn't even know.
Yeah, that's fine.
Coffee. All right,
So just a counter proposal for proposal 7.
okay,
We would like to amend the amount to be, for each step, to be a total of $1,500 increase. Instead of, like, I know it's
16 to 20.
yes, for those 4 steps, and that is less than the bachelor's multiplier. So like the bachelor's multiplier, things like 1537, so we just went a little bit less than that, but 1,500 for each one of those would be our counter for that.
because now it would be with 257. Is that correct?
Yeah,
So you're saying the total of, because adding
The total of
250 was bringing it to 750,
750,
right?
so it's add another, yeah,
So then it would be a total of 1,500 for the,
correct. Yeah,
That's what adding to us.
but like, well, no,
adding 750.
yeah, it's for those 3 steps, and then for the last 2, it's like a total of 1250.
Yeah, that's what we're the last.
So we're
Oh,
all
okay.
adding, so we're
On
all
those.
adding, yes, so
Okay.
like for each step, it's, we're all equal.
They're gonna be total. Okay,
Yes, for each, for every single step.
Hey,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you though for the clarification.
Yeah, I think
And I think that helps us, effectively recruit, retain passionate teachers, I kind of informally and very informally, polled. Well, thank you, Moses, for getting me that so quickly. I just kind of shot everybody an email and I said, hey, when are you thinking about retirement? Just informally, we're not holding you to it, we don't hope you retire anytime soon. I'm just curious for, from a data standpoint, how long you think until retirement? And about 12 of them are less than 5 years of those 20. Yeah, so that's, I know we can't say like, oh yeah, they're gonna be gone, but just another data point to throw out there. That's kind of what they were all thinking. Some were saying, some were like, I think 2 of them are leaving this year. I think it was Jess and Glenda, right? Yeah, and then, but I know there's some, there's a couple like, I know Andy Smith said it like a bunch of times, yeah, I got 2 years and I'm done, so just, there's some that said they're gonna be here for 16 years. I was like, oh. I was like,
Me.
yeah, I was like, you keep going, 16 years, you probably get it.
I'm like 66.
You know though, Colin, I mean, a lot of those that on the length of time with that were changes years that they were just, or it's super advantageous. I mean, at the end of the day, for my philosophy is I would always want the best rock star teachers in front of my kids.
Absolutely.
So depending on the length of time, that could be 40 years. Because if that amazing teachers touch a base with kids, that's what you want.
Yeah, my music history professor in college said he has a lesson plan for, when they, send him to the funeral home. And I'm like, you go, Dr. Super, it's like, so,
Be interesting to hear
So
what's outside
1,500.
that.
yeah, totally,
Okay.
for each of those, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then,
And
And then I am going to talk about support Fridays, and then Tim, your heartfelt little stuff you said about support Fridays hit home, but we wanted to ask for the 19th of December, support Friday, because we talk about effective and meaningful, and that's like Halloween. Just before, so the 19th of December, one more day. Because we always talk about effective and meaningful.
Sure.
let's say, yeah.
And that was good to take that one off, take that one off.
Just have to be in on school.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think you guys want meaningful and effective.
100%.
And we went back there and we so touched by what you guys said and believing in us and saying we've never went down, and I appreciate that, but the 19th of December, if we could take that off, because that's kind of like Halloween.
Sure.
Because,
Yeah.
the meaningful perspective.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, right? And Jane, like I've even shared with you, right? I've told you about like the experience my daughters had come to Havre versus Stevensville.
Yeah.
And that was the high school principal in Stevensville. She loves Havre a lot more.
Yeah.
And I know,
100%, right? Like, so that speaks a lot about
yes,
what we do here. So that's fabulous.
yes. So.
Private basketball
The
game on
ninth,
that
the
day.
19th.
So would you be? So remove the 19th and then use those 2 days
Still for conferences.
for conferences?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Still keep it
just, so we were on the right page.
Yes, yes, and I thought, okay, you know, we're not. We want to give you guys a little too, and so we were talking about, okay, let's look at the 19th. Just of December and the parent teacher conference, which I do appreciate, and I think our teachers will love that. I think our teachers,
I
elementary.
think some
teachers
parents
will
would
love
love it too.
it. Because they have an option of night,
It's also
And
right there, the
during
time
the
right
day.
and breaks there.
so I do appreciate that. I think,
Well, and that's our hope is that, I mean, one of the things I was saying is that fits with our strategic plan is to get more parent involvement in our schools. And so it's really our hope that that might allow more parents to come in for those.
And just a thought, I know it's not a negotiations thought, but with that parent teacher conference K-5, I'm sure Key Club or National Honor Society would be willing to have some high schoolers there to help watch some of their the parents' youngsters while the parents conference. I think that would also help, you know, encourage parents to come on that day. Even if they have little, like, hey, we have some very responsible kids that have gone to the safe center class and all this stuff that can watch your kids for 20, 30 minutes. You know, while you conference with your, you know, other students.
I know Misfits always have that.
We always had the National Junior Honor Society.
Yeah, I think that.
And when they couldn't,
That too.
my kids got babes.
One thing I do want to add to that, Tim and Miranda and
I'll buy you Christine.
Kristen, that when we do make the new calendar, maybe look a little bit closer at what the data is showing, if it's still showing that big need. I think,
100%. I
yeah.
think it's always good to be.
Well, if it goes down, maybe look at that.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's fair because calendar's already made and.
100%.
So have
Why
the
keep a track of that?
Thank you.
One,
One more.
One more where we could kind of work with that time, the quality of time too is, let's see, we like the cap at 15:10, but we make that the ultimate cap of hours, including those things that are, you know, staff meeting that runs over until 5:15, could that be included in that 15?
So you're saying get rid of 60 hours.
And then just make it whatever it is from the contracted time to that.
so we
Because
like,
right now it's already 14:50 well,
But if we get.
Well, that's
but then we're getting rid of 3, that's 15 hours off, so.
Which would be,
25. Or the 84.5. And that would be with the total of
like the
14.99.
two elementary ones.
I just took the 14.99.5 and took out the 3 support staff. Okay.
Are does high school and middle school still go into those support Fridays that elementaries have conferences or no? Me and Kraske, I asked Kraske, and he's like, I assume so.
Well, when I asked that question last time, you said yes, when
Okay,
you brought it up.
so theoretically, the high school, and middle school would still be at those, right? So we're not taking off 3 sports, but they're only taking off, yeah, go down, yeah.
and it would still be time working for the country.
So Holly, you said 14.91 per hour.
That'd be 14.99.5 currently, and then if you took off the 3 days in the elementary, it'd be 14.84.5. But if you only took off 5 hours for the middle school and high school, you'd be at 14.94.5.
I don't know, I'm in high school right now, I'm going over that at the meetings, but different principal. And Kresge, yeah, Kresge's got a 2-minute meeting on the Monday. You know, your 504 here and there, but
Having a different.
Well, I mean, it would still be hours worked for the elementary, so it would be the same hours.
I think.
It would be half, it would be half.
Yeah, that's 60 hour rule.
Does that
still
make
continues. Elementary has the more, I would assume that y'all have more meetings outside of the school day than middle school and high school, that's an assumption. You know, I guess because I work in middle school and high school, I don't know about elementary, so I was just thinking that, but. You know, so I assume that it would kind of go out. In my opinion.
Is it just Aaron when the meetings go longer
You know, it
than the scheduled time?
been the scheduled, yeah.
Yeah, so it's.
Because like, as you know, then you and Rhonda and I had a discussion. on this.
Yeah.
And then I went and did a little research to say, hey, is this occurring? If it is, you know, or not, and then the response was, we're not going over that time, so.
It's up until 5 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we can totally, Holly and I can help navigate that, but with principals to say, you know, here's the boundaries of time for the meetings, and you can stay within them. But it's just not then going over, like you said, I know Dustin, it's not.
Yeah, well, I know in the middle school, we have greatly alleviated a lot of that. I know 2 years ago, we were just sitting there and it was just very redundant for no reason. It's kind of what it was. So then we kind of very compartmentalized it. You know, I think they have them when they need them, but not, you know, they just do one in one thing as well, pretty much now.
Yeah, and then there's only been 4 others.
Yeah. We only have them if we need them, but we get like a cancel, yeah. Every time we had them, we had negotiations here, if I haven't done. It's kind of worked out. But I think I'm always, well, we won't get front of your work. No, you know, we don't plan on pursuing anything more proposal for proposal five. That's just it.
You can still go off of that.
Can you give us a little time?
If you would have wrapped that, I think so too.
We're ready to go.
Appreciate.
Oh, Jane.
No, I guess think about it as well, which would mean.
I was having a really hard,
You're
I was
looking at
looking at the
15
wrong year.
hours.
That's fine. This doesn't make sense. It's not fair. What are they talking about?
You put the numbers in.
No, I don't have the teacher. You know, I guess, usually my AA does that for me and.
I just wanted to see if mine and your numbers
Yes,
were like,
yep.
you know, similar, because we're getting there.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep, that.
I think we got.
Everybody would still be at the 14.94.5 because they're working conferences.
Yeah.
And the other ones are working gigs. So this was nonsensical. Yeah, I
It's still
said.
1494.5.
Yep, for everybody.
The thing that the high school teachers have to remember, half of their support Friday time is usually for to grade level or department meetings.
We're not gonna hear them, Mark. They don't.
I don't think there's enough, but I think. You see, what would I do with that?
What's the
You're
rate
working
now?
on it right now.
Oh, I got it.
You got it, yeah,
Oh, I
For the 1,500.
across the board, because
So when we first came to this, my magic number was, let's just keep it 50,000 acres. That's my biggest thing with those cells. Yeah, let's keep it within 50. Which isn't bad, but it's 91,000. If we do that. And so, I'm just trying to do math real quick of what we proposed here, this MOU. And what we're predicting to do. So this, with that MOU, 484,000, including the 1,500 that they want to reach themselves. So 484,000. Stars Act. How that's gonna change, we're losing a couple of teachers, right? From retirement.
But not many,
I mean,
because we had some that were filled too.
so the last time I looked at the Stars Act of what our prediction would be, like what we would be getting was like 525. So I mean, we're still under, but we all know what deficit we're in the general fund.
Because that was just under 5 this year, 500,000, like 497.
So that's a,
Is it, I mean, is it possible to like split the difference with them? I mean, they're at double what we are right now for that.
yeah, they're double, except for those last two cells.
Okay.
The last two cells are now at
Yeah.
1250.
Okay.
What we proposed,
How would maybe to bring them up to 1250, what we quote that,
like all of them be.
Or like, so if you split the difference up, I just did it, it's like 1150.
okay,
So if you split that, I'm just curious, I mean, I'm thinking that's gonna put you somewhere around 70 or 75,000.
Yeah, I can check.
oh yeah, it kind of just comes from the middle of everything, Chris,
Yeah.
1150 from the 750.
For all of them.
Yeah.
For all the cells.
Oh, for all the cells or just?
1150 for all the cells, is that?
Well, we probably have to keep the last two, so they're probably not gonna go lower
Yeah.
than,
Right.
since they're at 1250.
Yeah, so
that's
keep
where-
those at 1250, but the others are maybe at like 1150.
1150. Yeah, I can work.
Cause then we're meeting them right in the middle of where we're at, and where they're at.
I honestly, with the one on December 19th,
I think I appreciate what they're saying about being meaningful, right? Being a lot of people that
Yep.
not been there.
I think we can all agree, like, that's an easy one.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a matter of the 50 at this point.
Yeah.
There's a,
I can look at that.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
It's, it's kind of different.
Yeah, yeah.
Holly, what are your thoughts on their request on hours? It didn't seem like that would work with that 60 and, yeah.
No.
But you can't park up, you can't park up for that 1,500. We don't want.
I just think of like when school gets out at 4:05 and teachers are done with their duty day at 4:15. And you have an IEP that starts at 4:10.
Right.
And those are important things we need to be able to keep, because we know how important those meetings are with kids.
Yeah, and you schedule them, or at least
Right.
I
Well, Randy,
scheduled
you know.
them for
Right, do.
what was best for the parent, what works best for you.
That. Do we need all 60 hours? That's my only question. I don't.
Well, I think you have to look at it as an overall fairness to all staff, because it's your special education staff, they'll be over 60.
Sure. Which makes sense. I haven't thought of that.
So is it equitable at all for them to continue to go over?
No one else?
Yeah. That is.
And maybe just that the principals will try their best, you know.
I think so, Lorraine. I think maybe that's what
Are
they're-
they trying, if parents are comfortable coming in on a support credit, to even on support credits? You know, we just still do it where it works for the families. We do try to do it at the end of the day, or, you know, different things. I know there were times that, you know, the only parents could come in at lunch, and so then I would go cover the teacher's lunch. After the meeting was over or before, and, or have a parent go in and cover so they would get to eat, because everybody deserves that.
No. Well, and I mean, I don't know kind of the context of where this is being asked, but I think there's a difference between having your supervisor or your principal say, this meeting will be over at 5, and it goes till 5:30 and it didn't get shut down, versus you have an IEP meeting that needs to take place at 5 o'clock. And from what was said, it seemed like more it was like the supervisor letting the meeting run long, and that's kind of the bone of contention, which like you said, you can
100%.
help manage.
Oh, yeah,
It's happened 4 times this year.
yeah. I know, because then I did some checking on it too, and it wasn't
Okay.
wasn't
I didn't ever
frequent,
have a
but,
meeting at the
but I think it's easy enough, Holly, like I can throw that on,
4:15.
you know, I can throw it on the his agenda. It's an easy one just to remind me as we go in, because we're closing out the year and we start next year. Please make sure that we'll be tapping, whether you like to do it morning or after school, that you're on time with release. Right? Because it's very much, because some of these people, it's after school, maybe they have a second job we're going to, they gotta pick up their kids or whatever, so we just make sure we stay in those parameters at all times, so that's an easy one. December is an easy one.
And I like how thoughtful it was. too.
Yeah, very strategic. That was a big relief.
Thoughtful and.
Well, I heard that was on the colony, have a CIC.
I think that's where they're complaint to. You know, only gave me 500 here, and then it bumps to 1,000, and we want these to get more. To get more compensation, more benefit than just $500 in those.
So at the bottom of like 20 of the ring is where it would max. So that would always be,
Under their proposal, it max out at 81,720.
so yeah, so even if they're year 20 past that, you know, it's just gonna stay with that threshold.
So Moses, in the art proposal, he bumped these from 500 to 750. Yeah, okay.
That's it.
Do you think? And you don't anticipate probably 1250 and 1150 is probably much. Do you think I guess we can see what Moses gets done.
Yeah, almost that.
So December 19th, we're saying, for the support Friday. And then fall conferences usually are that part of October. So then
Which conferences are they talking about switching over to the side?
spring and fall.
One in the spring, one in the fall, right?
Yep. So usually, and I haven't for like 15 years.
Right.
It's usually October. And if you look at
That's easy.
the 23rd,
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so that if you do 16
Not bad.
and 18, I'd sell 16 and 18, then 1150 there. And then keeping the 1250 on 19 and 20, 7, 19 and 20. Yeah, we're at 56,000, 56,300. So 56,300.
That's pretty close to where.
That's close to where I wanted.
That's really close.
Is it much different with 1250, just so it's
Like all consistent.
consistent, just worry about than one that the consistency piece then is $100 on that. Is that just gonna get it done, you know what I mean, versus, so it's consistent.
I'm worried about that.
She gets up at like 4:30 in the morning every day.
3:30.
Honestly, nothing wrong with going better. I used to go to bed around 9.
Well,
Well,
You know, Tyson on a very,
Routine.
Yeah.
very big routine, and I think he does have,
He's still living.
yes, yeah.
so we did not talk about which dates for parent-teacher conferences, but looking at this calendar, October 24th might be good because it's the day after the end of the first quarter. And then typically our spring ones are kind of around the March area.
Mhm.
So the 27th would be the day after the end of the third quarter,
27th,
March,
So March 27th, and then what was the other one?
October 24th.
okay, so my question on those would be, yes.
Because technically Thursday,
27th, I don't have as a support Friday though, I have that as a day off.
that's the day I don't work.
No.
You're right, and we don't want the 20th. Because that's the Friday before the end of the quarter,
Yeah.
maybe March 6th.
March 6th. So do we want, are we looking for the end of the quarter, or are we looking for the end of the trends?
It could be, you could do either. I was just looking at where the support Fridays fell in the month that we usually have. But they can be, our conferences in the past, we've always tried not to have them at the exact same time.
Right, and so that parents can get to. the
But
level.
in this situation, the K-5, they would all be the same.
That's the only caveat, is we're going to have.
But then maybe you don't have your high school ones the same night.
Yeah,
That could be a.
Yeah.
So that spring one, you're looking either March 20th. Or April 17th.
And then you wouldn't have one in April at all if you get rid of the April 17th ones. So
Yeah, so
that's-
you almost have to go March 20th.
Well, I don't like.
Well,
that
March
one.
20th is right before the end of the quarter,
Yeah,
so you might want to do March 6th.
was there one March 5th or something you said, Holly?
March 5th is the end of the second trimester, and then the 6th is the support Friday, so maybe March 6th.
March 6th.
Well, but your high school is still gonna have their regular support, right? On the 20th, before the. It's only affects your elementary, so that really wouldn't be.
True.
It's not gonna affect your high school students or your high school teachers at all. This is just our elementary.
That's a good point.
Are we gonna show that for parents? This calendar is so confusing.
How are we gonna do this?
But are we
This
gonna
is gonna
like
be a
make that
disaster.
diagonal line that's kind of all colors or
Parent-
how are we
teacher
gonna like?
Well, we don't have on there right now, we don't have this specified on there.
We're
We
going
don't
to have to have something,
You know what I mean, you know what I think we'll do, Kristen, because on the
it's
current.
gonna have to have like an arrow and a big box.
No,
We-
asterisk.
Yeah, because Holly, on that calendar though, we don't have specified all the dates, do we, for PTCs?
No, that's a negotiated things.
So I think we'll just send that out
Okay.
separately.
Okay.
Yeah, so that calendar doesn't become like,
Okay.
what is that?
Yeah, because otherwise I think people are gonna be like, what did you do?
So do we just change, like, let's say you did it the 20th.
Yeah.
Do we just change that to the date of special, date of interest? Or,
Does it get its own color?
because it ain't gonna be Sport Friday, and elementary parents are gonna look back, oh, that's purple, you guys are going to school.
I think if we kick out the information ahead of time to them to
For the
say,
ones that's not.
Yeah,
unless we add, I mean, granted, because now we're gonna take off December 19th. Right, and we also have to approve the colony calendar that we get.
Which
So we're gonna have to
then-
reconvene this committee anyway, so we can navigate if we wanna have the color in there for.
Do you know how many parents have told me they really like the X is way better?
the what?
The X. is
The
better,
X.
Right?
For
They're
no,
like, it's so much easier. I just knew if there's an X on the calendar, we didn't go. And I know that was a big vote of contention at our meeting, that it didn't look good.
I didn't think it looked good coming into the district, but that's the
Yeah.
suspect.
I'm fine with X's, I don't. To me, it makes more sense, like, I always have to reference, the ground is blue.
Yeah.
That's, I always have to
We're the blue
reference.
ponies. And on the blue are school holidays.
It's confusing, and I'm, no problem.
Okay, what do you got?
So if we do it just 12.50.
Cross the board.
Those sales. So we're going at a $63,500 difference. Which.
And we can afford that, was it?
On top of the 428, is that it?
On top of that,
484.
It's a 393. That's on the MOU.
That's on me.
Yeah.
So it's 13 more. than
So,
we're at.
yeah,
I think
the mill levy goes down, Moses will be able to handle it
If what?
if the mill levy doesn't pass.
I think so. Like, just really optimistic look, you know, outlook. The HB 15 is pretty big too, so that inflation is the 3%, I think, right?
Yeah.
We got a big bump too, so, I mean, with everything.
It was a larger
hopefully-
money and everything.
Yeah, hopefully we can flip our deficit to like a positive. That's what I'm thinking, that we can do, so.
Perfect.
So can we, the 1250, is that doable?
I think so. And like what Brian and I said, I mean, we were looking for 50,000, I mean, it's 13.5. I think we.
We'll just.
Way better than I hear.
We've already made him go a long way, because he was at happy at 0.5. Not for people, but for the budget.
Yes, correct. I'm gonna go down.
Yeah. Yep, we'll get it.
His job, he's saying no sometimes.
This has been.
You guys have told my baby.
Walking apart compared to where this has been the last.
What I've heard. So I guess kudos though all the way around for making it up then, because I have heard a lot more positive. I had Dustin actually told me things like this. He goes, you know, because I watch some of these sometimes. He says, he goes, I've been impressed. He goes, sometimes Andy. These things. He goes, just I just do the job.
Well, maybe two. And we offer their support rate to help us with the mill levy, you know, whether
That's
you
it.
talk to your neighbor or whatever.
Well, right, that's an excellent point.
Yeah, I like that.
That's an excellent point. And rings. That's not. Yep.
Yeah, Crosby's like, yours are kind of.
Honestly, I was thinking I'd see all these theatrics and that, Tim Sapland.
Steve, rolling out.
Yeah. That's what we tell people.
I can't, I told, he's so excited. They make to see him here. He's very sure this is dying.
I like optimism.
It's been making me insane. I call tags, it's or one.
Next year. School next year.
I don't know, what is the plan?
Is that?
Tax behavior plan, is that going through this?
Oh, tax behavior?
Yeah.
Yeah.
183.
Yeah.
I haven't heard.
I heard they're not gonna have any more funding through the state.
Yeah.
That's what,
I
that's what
I haven't
Katie
heard
said
that.
to
It was
me.
like,
Oh, no.
That's what Katie said.
Curiosity.
oh, I was like this.
Oh.
Yes, I'd have to ask Ollie. I've heard this.
Yeah, it's like it's been, you know, TSS is like, it's gonna be the last one next year. We'll go back to the same thing.
Technically, it was there this year, but it's gaining momentum.
Okay.
Yeah,
My bad.
gaining momentum. Oh,
I'd say, if anybody asked me if I thought it was working. The treasure function maybe had been more effective.
all right. Are we ready? Okay. Okay, so if we start with, proposal number 7, okay? So we heard yours at 1,500, our proposal back will be at 1,250 for all those things. 16 through 20, we can just go to 1,250 for all those. And then on your request to just eliminate the 19th of December, we accept that. And then when it comes to Aaron, kind of your point, I told Holly that I would add that to my next principal agenda meeting and kind of got through to ensure that we're not going over meeting requirements sometimes. So that that's important for a variety of reasons, right? If you need to go pick up kids, if you have a job, whatever that is, we need to be consistent across the board with our meeting times, because that's fair to the folks. So, I'm done. Feed these brownies. Yeah.
We'll get.
And then he's gonna some fire to start running.
No,
Would you guys be interested in seeing like what the last cell?
I think we've got them down. Yep, and actually I'll just kind of go 12:50 down.
Well, good one, yeah.
Yep, perfect, thank you.
thank you.
Uh-oh, here's all that. And my extension cords in my back. I have my little about this big.
Yeah, we have unlimited cord.
I need to have it.
Can you please put it on the table? Uh-oh.
You can go more, you can go more. You can take it with you. Yeah, you can take it with you. That's yours.
Go on the TV.
Oh, did I? Oh,
Remember though, Holly, if the technical difficulty,
I know. Yeah.
we don't have to restart the. They made that very clear in the law. If you experience technical difficulty, you do not need to start the recording.
I'm supposed to take every cover and since you get it back up in one.
Who said you catch that one?
Yeah.
We are very smooth.
Because we got Aaron Cole, they're too good.
They can control us remotely.
I know, right? They're too darn good at their job. One I did find out today too, Aaron found a couple different platforms. He's gonna show me for the property resolution for the disposal. So
That's a good
he feels very confident that we can online. And then
I'm just thinking of like
Chipotle dates on the signal. And then
Or slash walk them.
Yeah,
buildings, because, and that was the other question, how that was down. So then it can be open and available.
You got light beams there, so.
Yeah.
Doesn't, it's gone to school, just.
What else is there? Good else? Lettuce, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So, pretty good.
Salsa.
Right.
But I like that,
Yeah,
because it is a lot of work for you to take it all the way to the football field and take it all the way back out versus just one trip and whatever doesn't.
That's all I gotta do really is take pictures of it.
Does it,
When was the last time you did one?
the last I heard was like Kraske said, I think 5 or 6 years ago. It was before COVID.
And did a lot of stuff get purchased,
I'm not sure.
or did it mostly go?
Yeah, I'm
What are you
not
talking
sure.
about?
The last one was
Cause I just wouldn't think you would get a lot of interest in that old stuff.
My experience, you don't, some people will buy like 2 or 3 things and then the rest of it is.
The biggest thing that you
The
sell,
colony.
the biggest thing you sell, they don't want that.
Yes, you are right. If you do those,
If you have alarms.
yep,
Oh, yeah.
those are hot button ones.
Those things fly out.
And guess what, though, we got iPad cards for just this year. I'm taking one of those iPad ones from the garage. 'Cause I feel like,
And you have to buy it.
That's a good idea.
yeah. I don't think they're gonna go like that, hot, they might pick this up for a buck.
A lot of them down there, so
You might need to go too, you're a mechanic.
there's a lot of them down there.
Yeah.
The tech guys were trying to really work on me to get Wade to take.
Yeah, they were like, wait,
Five,
like,
and I
you
said,
do?
hey, Wade, he goes.
They would be useful, not for like ranching and farming ones. They would be useful, I think, in a more commercial shop
Yes.
where you've got so many impacts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then you could sort them in the slot.
that's it.
Yeah, and you've got all those spots to plug
They've
in.
got wheels on. too.
You could do that instead of your stroller.
Storage.
That was a lot for me.
Stroller. Yep.
I remember our first time going to Disneyland, like, what are we gonna do with the stroller home? And then you get there and you're like, it's like, you just drop it off wherever you're at.
You do,
And you
because
look back and you're like, Nothing's gone.
It's still.
This is great.
Strollers there.
And then you're like, hope we don't forget a kid in the show. That would be a weird surprise. That would be a weird.
Like Home Alone.
So my friend, before we went to Disneyland, she had said that they had this special little like hologram stamp that they could put on your kids and it would scan. And then if your kids got lost, they would just go scan. So we were looking for this special thing and it doesn't exist.
If you're gonna go to Disney World, you get the brace, you get the
The magic band.
magic band.
But I solved it. I rolled up my kid's sleeves and took a Sharpie and wrote myself on it. Like normally I would not think I would lose my kids, but there were 15 of us. And so.
Arms up, sharp down.
It's like little kid wrestling. All right,
And my
sleeve
kids
up.
stayed with me the whole day. It was fine, but in case they got lost, they could just go.
You never know though, like in Disneyland wrestle, there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that happens there.
Yeah.
My kids have, you know, the rubber bracelets. They have one of those that has a metal thing that clips on it that has our phone
Oh,
numbers
that's
and
nice.
everything on there, so that if they ever get lost or something were to happen to them, they have that on.
I've
But
come a
Yeah,
long
that's
ways.
yeah,
in
yeah.
15
just
years.
AirTag your kid.
Well, no, didn't have anything.
And I better take back in the day, Moses.
Honestly, if I would want
Yeah.
We had,
We
we were friends
we
that had
did.
something on the leash, you know, those like
Yeah.
backpacks with the
I
leash.
refuse.
Yeah, we have AirTags on our
My
dogs.
ex-wife had him on a leash. Who's got Hunter?
Now they have to watch when I had kids. I was like, why would you ever do that? And then I had kids and I was like, well, that's why they got.
That's what, because you know, at Disneyland, I mean, there's so many bazillions of people, so we went there, it was like their 50th anniversary, right? Like my mom, like my brother, his kids, like this is a big thing. Kid, you know, we've been waiting in, it's a small world, you know, little boat, right?
That's the worst.
For like an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
We're waiting. We get right up to this end.
It's long.
His wife looks at me.
I like that.
Hunter's head's stuck in the fence. And I go, what? And I look over and Hunter's looking at me like this. And Hunter's, he's a big guy, right? He's got a big head. And I'm sitting there, I'm like this. And they're like, next, right? The people are moving it. You got, this is the people that are. I'm like, do we call the fireman? My aunt comes over, does some move like this and Hunter's head's out. And all of a sudden we're on the boat and I'm like, thank you. And then I'm looking at Hunter's head.
The thing about Disneyland, or anyway, you put your kids in matching clothes. But you can't use blue, you can't use pink, you can't use purple.
Yeah.
Green,
I think that's how we.
nobody wears green,
Nobody wears green. It's
nobody.
not a hot color.
You can't wear gray either, that's a terrible,
Yeah.
terrible. We did a gray one day and it's like, I was like, wow. We match everything. It's dumb.
We gotta go green. For your kids, like, sweet green.
My kid, I was lost Case. Case would have been talking to everybody in the park about, well, this is where I'm from, where are you from? Do you want to know how we Fred check our cows?
You're like this.
Ford would just sit there and look at him and not say a word. He would literally just sit down in one spot and maybe come back.
See, this is what I should do.
He wouldn't cry, he would just sit there and look at everybody.
We had gone down to the pool area. Well, then it got dark and I couldn't remember what the number of our condo was. So we're wandering around and Caden, our oldest grandson that lives here. Finally, we saw this security guy walk in and he said, where are we supposed to be? So he went back to the desk and saw where we were registered to be, but it was like, oh.
It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know. Where is grandma? All this.
Everyone walked
That thing is actually very green.
Green's a good color.
and he was checking everything out and it snowed and she just went with some.
Gordon's, I got it.
Take so long to get back here.
Would like to be in the house.
It's a lady down there. It's like, right.
So, but yeah, we've been sent to be free.
Oh, back. It's so.
I was gonna put everything on the thing that you. I was like, I gotta get out. I gotta go find my kid. And, I need to go. Lenny's like, you need to take your.
Just probably good.
My kids too, when I got them out of the car, so I got them. Yeah. You know, where you put the fuel in it and actually, have your hand stays open.
I'm just learning all. Thank you. We just, real quick, we just wanted to ask for one small change, and then we are ready to go home and still be light. If possible, it's only 7:15, air conditioning still open. So
Oh, it's snowing.
Yeah. So, on the steps 19 through 20, we would like to, instead of do 1250, do 1500 on those two. That is the only,
And 450 on the rest.
yes, correct. That's it.
You wanna give us some, well, we.
I'm thinking about paper seal. I'm not carrying all that.
How about whatever we come back with, whatever we respond with, I will tell you before you come. Yeah, and then we can discuss.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Hey, Colin, while you're up. Seriously?
I would like a Dilly bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, hey, kids are in for all we got.
Many teachers were there.
That's gonna put us on the list.
Yeah.
Well, this could you draw?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of 20s.
Yeah.
In that group of 20.
Can you? If you do. Could you do something that's like? I don't know, I'm just throwing out numbers. If you did 1,400 there, could you drop the other ones less than 1,250 then? To go back to 1050 or something like that, or there's so many at 20 that. it's not like-
There's a lot of them, 20.
Okay,
It's probably.
Yeah, one,
yeah,
two.
but 20 is a problem,
One, six,
it sounds like, yeah. Oh,
18 out of the 25.
yeah,
That's why
Okay.
I want to move that.
yeah, I got you.
Yeah, that's it. But we really can't go above that. That's gonna put us that's gonna put us in a dangerous spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think at that point, you gotta be creative at the end, it's like, just moving funds, just to balance out your budgets. But I mean, I can run it if you guys are interested in seeing it.
I guess let's see it. No, you're here. We're here. At least we know.
But they said 1,500 on that team.
Maybe it's 13.
Or could you even do 1,300
You know,
and try and move a
that's
teeny
it.
tiny bit,
Just a squeak, just to show something, maybe,
just to show we tried, but we.
that's it.
That's
I
really
know.
not striking.
Yeah, something like
So
that.
13 on the last two steps, 1350, 1,300.
Just
13.
try 1,300.
I mean, that's just gonna. If we're gonna put ourselves so tight.
Yeah.
And like I told the booster club. If we put ourselves so tight. We have one bad thing going on with our schools. Then we have to cut.
Well, it's just like your household, like you wouldn't do that to your family and put yourself in that. That'd be hard.
I mean, not that we want, not that we're trying to like have $150,000 a day of school year.
Right.
We're trying to make sure we have something at the end of the school year, so, oh, okay, this came up, we got more cushion, just a little bit.
Well, I don't think we've gone a whole school year with nothing, not happening.
There's always something. Henceforth, the June floor.
That was a big one.
That was a little stinky last Saturday.
It was.
Bet you was.
For that poor guy.
When I went in there on Monday, I was like,
How does that look?
Yeah, because it was district
looking
music.
pretty good though.
And you could smell it pretty nicely. We finally just brought the doors open and felt bad because the heater was running, but you couldn't, that poor guy would have passed out in another half an hour.
Just because of the varnish, is that what he's, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Because we did-
Awful.
because we did that versus then the water-based,
Okay.
just from the gym standpoint. Mark with like the number of tournaments and activities we have in there, it definitely holds up longer than the water, but at the same time now, that's one of their promotions is to say use the water versus the varnish, but
Yeah, but the ones that are using the water, they're like only used at gym or
it's a,
more games.
that's
You're
not,
not gonna use.
you use that thing. Unbelievable.
It just, yeah, that varnish just, it's upset. I mean, I can remember, for men that they varnished every summer. And it's like 2 weeks of that school, like 7 o'clock, every window, every door was open, all for 2 weeks. And then you close it up, they have the principal come in and close it up.
You know, after though, it kind of sets for a little bit, I almost strangely kind of like the smell.
When it's all aired out, it smells like,
It does smell like
it
this.
smells like a new gym.
That's what I think. Yeah, that's what, so when I was in there Monday, I was kind of like this.
I'm like,
It did. Yes, that's kind of how I turned it. That's kind of what I thought.
I don't know if it's because I like
Okay.
contributed that to like
Yeah.
a brand new floor, but
I think so.
For so many
That's right.
years.
It is good memories.
Yeah.
this is the beginning.
start with something fresh.
That's it. That's what I think. I think that's what I did because I want to go in.
First little bit on that.
Oh, yeah, it's hard.
So the one said 65,400. If we move those last two steps to 13.
Because we were just at what, 63?
Yeah, 63, but that was for 50 each. We just moved them, $50. Yeah.
It is.
But that's probably about as.
Yes.
Yes.
Maxed out.
Yeah.
We go tell him, Tim? Okay.
He's already been the offer.
Yeah.
Then they could maybe this house there.
So we need to write in what we're doing, post a 7. And then 8. We wrote for each.
That's the goal. Because they don't get that, so there's.
Yeah.
We give them the raises the insurance, but they're not seeing that we're cutting budget from like Miss Hollis curriculum. Balance things out or from my credit school budget.
Yeah, the last time I did curriculum, we put over 700, almost $800,000.
And Miss Holly.
And we stayed under 3, like 250 this year. Wow. But that was not,
And that's
I
her
was
working.
saying no a lot too,
Yeah.
and working deals.
I heard you were a shrewd negotiator.
Great. Like, do you, no, alcohol? Hey, we're not gonna take these to work next year, maybe we have backup. Well, you already prepaid for them, and I'm like, do you really want to fix the environment?
We send
We're
out,
in a budget deficit, trying to be fiscally responsible and promote education and making these students work for you someday. Okay.
Sally, you would love the Philippines, but just, I mean, it's all origin out there.
But
Very difficult scenario. In the school years, very, very, very tight. Maybe past that. Perfect, it's okay. That's cool. I gave them just that brief information. That sounds great. So if you have any more questions, you gotta come to it. Okay.
So we have that, we have everything that was agreed to all the way through.
And proposal needs it. Or,
Yep,
And then 8, we're putting the words for each conference, we're removing support Friday on December 19th.
yep.
And then we're looking at, where-
October 24th.
Well, I thought you want to do that through the calendar.
Yes, I just kind of was making my own.
Oh, yeah. I thought
Yeah.
October 24th and March 6th, or March 20th.
Cause the end of the end of the first trimester comes. November 9th,
I don't know, so it's
right before Thanksgiving.
It's like, okay.
But they're
Or for the quarters.
But their quarters are we doing K through 8?
That's like this.
Or,
K5 does. Trimester.
no. Are we saying K
Five.
5 has this altered?
For the conference.
K5.
So this doesn't impact the middle school and high school at all. So going into the quarters makes no difference for this
Correct.
proposal. Correct. So us having it at the quarter doesn't do us any, doesn't matter at all for this proposal. So you could either do the 21st or the 5th of December and have it after your trimester.
But you don't want to do 5th of December because we just got rid of the
Oh, yeah.
19th.
I don't think you want to do the 21st right before Thanksgiving.
I thought we were doing October.
You might have a lot of families that go somewhere, I don't know, for that week of.
Well, here's what I thought. October is next to the quarter, not trimester. But we don't have to be next to the quarter.
But elementary Alice does their conference in October.
After the end of the trimester, right? Or
We usually
before,
do it before.
okay,
Before the
so
trimester.
that would be like.
Because
Because of all the
About
testing that
12
you're
years
finding out.
ago, we used to do mid trimesters too, and we did grade 6 times a year.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
then we
remember.
just said it's too much.
And if we go
We could take things
October,
off.
if we do October, then you're also getting a little bit of that
So,
midway to report back in testing and make
We
sure
still
everybody's
have
on that.
time to recover.
Okay,
All of
Okay.
your benchmarking is done, so you can see where all the students lie, interventions have started. Often we do it that week MEA, but you could do it right the next week.
October 24th, and then March, probably March 20th. You're gonna be right out the trimester, we're gonna essentially, I don't want to have a process.
I am. Yeah.
Because we only have one of you. Okay, well,
Yeah, so we don't want to do that.
Here's my big one.
Okay,
So we are gonna have to, wait to ratify until Christine can get all her ducks in a row and make sure that we got all the numbers and everything. And our plan is to get together with, HEA numbers on a week from Monday. So
with Easter, remember.
Last Monday.
oh, right,
hold together.
Right.
That we,
We'll explain everything, because it's kind of hard to do over email.
lots of people.
For the record, does it need to be conversed back and forth for the recording at all, or no? Okay.
We're okay. We're okay.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.